Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Welcome in on a Wednesday morning. We got a lot of football for you this morning because it's that time of year. I mean, we're not that far away from basketball. Jazz Media Day coming up next week, and we already have preseason games for hockey. But right now, football, and more football. We start with CBS national college sports writer covering college football, Shehan, Jeyarajah. And he joined us Monday to look back at the weekend that was. Here he is with PK and I on The Zone. Sean, good morning.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
So many good games in the Big 12, so many intriguing results. Texas Tech and Utah was a very competitive game for about 50 minutes. But, man, those last three possessions, Tech opened it up. I thought the quarterback injury, which on the surface you always think is a problem, was the best thing that happened to Tech. They have a couple deep balls, and the guy's open, but they're underthrown. It gets intercepted. Morton's got the two picks. They could have opened it up earlier. He gets knocked out. Backup comes in. He's money. Everything's on the spot. The 3 touchdowns and 3 drives. I thought the injury, it actually ended up helping him. What'd you think?
Yeah, I think that it was a shot in the arm in some ways. They really love Will Hammond at Texas Tech. He's somebody who was a star in high school, but never quite reached the level of some of the other quarterbacks in terms of recruiting rankings. But they felt like he was undervalued. They felt like he's a future star, and I think he proved it in so many ways. Now, look, I think that they still are definitely going to ride things out with Baron Morton. Apparently he's okay after the game. They kept him out of an abundance of caution. But, I think that for Morton, I mean, this is sort of these moments where you have to sit back and say, okay, let me go back and watch the tape. Let me go and figure out what's going well for Will Hammond that maybe I struggled with. I think, actually, ironically, the running component was something that they managed to use with Hammond a little bit better. But you just have to be able to hit on some of these deep shots with consistency to be able to move the ball against good defenses.
Which brings me to me, good for Hammond and all that, and we'll see what happens for them. But rather than just build up Texas Tech to be awesome, I'm more worried about Utah's offense because they were exposed, I guess, that if you can bottle up Dampier, and the longest run he had, I think it was like 7 or 8 yards, that they're just not good enough to try to beat you through the air. And I have a lot of concern now against the better teams that we may see a repeat of that.
Yeah, there's a couple pieces of this, right? One, I mean, Utah's not going to face a better defensive line pass rush for the rest of the year. Like this Texas Tech team came into the year being talked about like a playoff contender, and I think very much played like the Big 12 favorite and a playoff contender. So that's one piece of it. But I will say also, I mean, this was the concern that I had with this Utah offense coming in, is I think that there was a lot of assumption about Dampier being able to do some stuff in the passing game that frankly he just didn't do at New Mexico. Obviously, he has more structure around him. He has better pass protection. He has better receivers. But at the same time, the defenses are better. They know how to plan for him. And, not every team is going to be able to bottle him up to the same extent as a runner. But if he's just standing there in the pocket, I mean, you saw some of the issues that he had. He had passes batted down. I don't think he saw the field very well. There were very few passes of his that traveled further than 10 yards and were completed. And so for this Utah offense to have a chance to be really good, like they're just going to have to find ways to make him more comfortable as a passer, because while not every team has the same type of defense as Texas Tech, they can game plan in different ways to try and keep him in the pocket, to really focus on setting the edge. And how he responds to that is going to be a huge part of how successful Utah can be this year.
If I had to narrow it down to one thing that I think can be a problem every week, because, I think Tech's got more NFL defensive linemen than most, if not everybody in the league. But Dampier's inability to throw the deep ball on target and on time, I mean, we're 4 games in and we haven't seen it. The big pass completion against UCLA was underthrown, and Merriweather had to wait for it and come back and get it 36 yards. He can't hit him in stride. He missed Merriweather wide open on the sideline. It was a big play. Maybe it was a touchdown, but it should have been a 40 or 50-yard play. The one big play they had, and then they had 2 plays over 10 yards, and one of those was a 12-yard completion to Davis. Bentley for 44 yards. They get one chunk play. They score a touchdown. They have a long touchdown pass. That ball was heaved out there. Like, he put his whole body into throwing it that far. So our defense is just going to be crowding the line of scrimmage, taking away all the short routes and playing with an extra defender in the box to stop the run game?
100%, 100%. And I was talking about this with a colleague, actually, while we were watching this game. And one thing is, I mean, when you're an undersized quarterback, it's kind of there's two ways to handle it, right? There's the Bryce Young way to handle it, and then there's more of the sort of like get out and run way to handle it. And what I mean by that is with a player like Bryce Young, who is short but stays in the pocket, he typically, and maybe Drew Brees is probably the better example, but like he typically stands up and has created ways to create, I guess, what you would call windows for himself, right? Where he can look around his offensive lineman. He's used to doing that. Well, I think with Devin Dampier, when you look at his time at New Mexico, that really wasn't something that he did. He was mostly creating space for himself in order to be able to see over his linemen. Well, in the Big 12, when you have defensive lines and defenses that are able to keep you to the pocket a little bit more, I think that you see that skittishness, that Devin Dampier just physically can't see the field as well as maybe he has when he's been able to get outside of the pocket. So I think that's a big part of it. You mentioned the timing. I think that's a huge part of it. Arm talent-wise, like he's a good, not great deep ball accuracy guy in the first place, but like this is sort of the thing is, I mean, how long is it going to take him to work through some of these growing pains, to get used to being in the pocket, to get used to having to see around some of these humongous offensive linemen that obviously do such a great job for him? It's something that, again, I felt like was taken a little too for granted over the offseason. And definitely, I mean, you say that Texas Tech has the most defensive line talent in the Big 12. I mean, they legitimately might have the most in the country. And that is saying something. I'm comparing them to the Georgias and Alabamas of the world. But there are other teams that can present problems as well. And if they can just keep him in the pocket, again, like that's where I think that he's going to have the most trouble, especially if you're trying to create explosives.
Last week I told you my top four were Iowa State, Texas Tech, Utah, and TCU. Would you make any changes to that based on what was essentially week one?
Yeah, I wouldn't change a lot about it, to be honest. I think that, I think Utah is very much still capable of making it to a Big 12 title game. And, and certainly, again, if they can make adjustments and Dampier can grow, I think that they certainly could beat Texas Tech in a Big 12 title game. TCU's looked really good, like we expected. Texas Tech obviously did what they do. I think you start having conversations about, Arizona State wins a big game against Baylor over the weekend. I think that's pretty big for them heading forward. But I think that all the contenders that we thought last week are still very much contenders heading into week 5.
Colorado's 2-2 after beating Wyoming 37-20. It was 21-3 at the half. Colorado was up on them big at halftime. What do you think of the BYU Colorado game?
Yeah, I think this is a big opportunity for BYU to come out and have a big win. I've not been very impressed with Colorado to this point. The Wyoming game was fine, but, again, I don't think that Wyoming's a very good team right now. And even, their loss to Georgia Tech was only by 7, but it took 3 turnovers on the first 3 drives of the game for that game to even be close. So I think that BYU has a chance to go out there and really cause some issues for them. I think especially, defensively, I expect BYU to have a lot of success against a Colorado offense that just hasn't found itself to this point, and especially in the run game, I think they're going to be able to completely shut it down. And, look, I'm glad that we got to see a little bit of passing from Bear Bachmeier in that road game against East Carolina. That's obviously something that I've been wanting to see. This is a bigger test going against Colorado, but the Buffaloes also have some issues on the back end. So I think it's a potential breakout spot. And if they go and, if they go and have a huge, easy win over Colorado, I think that it's time to start putting them back into those national conversations.
If you're Auburn, do you just gracefully accept what essentially was the SEC's apology?
I mean, this is always the tough thing, right? It's like, what can you do, right? They're not going to go and replay the game. They're not going to go and, change the call and call it a tie or whatever you want to say. Like, it's just, you're kind of out of luck. Now, I think that if you're Hugh Freeze and you finish with a mediocre record, I think that you point to those moments and say, hey, well, maybe it wasn't supposed to be that way. Maybe we were a little closer than people might think. But, like, what else is there really to do, right? I mean, they got the public acknowledgement. The game is over. It's not going to change. So it's a really tough position for a program to be in. I mean, obviously, everybody, it feels like, who's a sports fan has probably their story of a moment like this, right? I mean, obviously the Saints game a while back with the pass interference, like that's kind of the big one. But like at the same time, it's just the game is over. You got one in the loss column. There's not a whole lot you can do other than that.
You were talking about UCF, and you thought they might be the worst team in the Big 12. They smoked North Carolina, and I don't know if that changes your opinion of UCF or if that changes or confirms an opinion of Bill Belichick in North Carolina. What did you make of that? Because UCF made it look really easy.
Yeah, I think that was much more about North Carolina, to be honest. But though I was genuinely pleased by the play of Taven Jaxson, UCF's quarterback. I think that he stepped up to the moment as both a passer and a runner. That's something that I was hoping to see, and that's part of the reason I was so surprised that he didn't win the job out of camp. But, you know, he definitely showed something. I think defensively, like, this is not a bad talent unit by any means, and I think that they were clearly more talented than North Carolina's offense, which really just wasn't able to get much of anything going against them. So, you know, when you talk about worse in the league now, like I think that Oklahoma State is probably making a heck of a case right now for that. But, you know, I don't necessarily know that it changes a lot about how I view UCF quality-wise. I think that this is more a statement of just how completely unprepared Bill Belichick is to be a college football coach.
Yeah, that's for sure. I don't know that I can argue. I'm wondering what you do on Saturdays with your job as a national guy. Do you have to just have like 40 TVs, or you get an opportunity to go to any games? How's that work for you?
Yeah, every weekend's a little bit different. It's funny that you asked this week because, 2 weeks ago I worked from my home office. I usually am watching about 6 games at a time out there and writing off of them. This week I actually got flown out to Florida to do studio work for CBS Sports HQ. So they've got a great setup out there. They've got 10 TVs up on the wall, and I can watch everything in between TV hits. But then, there are definitely weeks where also I get to go to games. So, actually, if I hadn't have gotten called to Florida, I was going to go to SMU TCU. But it just kind of depends. I go to probably 4 games or so a year, 4 or 5 maybe, before the postseason, of course. But, the thing is about covering national college football is, you're paying attention to 60 games or whatever it is every weekend. It's actually in some ways harder to be on location focusing close in on one game.
Exactly, yeah.
So you kind of find a balance depending on what week you're in.
Right. We deal with that. Having to go to stadiums. I'm always so grateful that BYU and Utah are offset.
And I do believe we just lost him. He dropped. That is the first thing to check every week is which TV window. Who's it? BYU's in a late window. Utah's going to West Virginia to play in the afternoon. That second TV window. Excellent.
Because I'll have it on the computer, but if I'm at a stadium, it's just so dang hard to really, really focus in on it.
Yeah.
Because the sound got to be down. And,
right.
And watching a replay, it's just hard to do.
Yeah. All right, Shehan's back with us right now. The Utes are going to West Virginia. West Virginia was a roller coaster. They had to be feeling good after they beat Pitt and won a rivalry game, and they got to be feeling terrible after Kansas just tore them apart. Is this the perfect bounce-back game for Utah, or could they be walking into a trap at West Virginia with a team that seems to be down and then up and then down again and just bouncing all over the place?
Well, Rich Rodriguez had one job when he took this job in 2025, and it was to beat Pitt. And now I think they're kind of just going to coast out the rest of the season. But this is a very young, new roster, and especially on the offensive line, they're just kind of a disaster right now. And they've kind of had to sit probably their better quarterback, Nico Martial, and go to Jalen Henderson because they just need somebody mobile out there who can make anything happen, especially after losing their star running back, Jaheim White, to injury. So I think that this is a great bounce-back spot. The defense, I would not be surprised if we're in shutout territory. And then offensively, I just don't think that West Virginia has the bodies to be able to keep up with Utah. But, it's one of those things, too, where, I hope that we get to see Utah work on some of their deep passing game a little bit, like you said, that we get to see Devin Dampier practice standing in the pocket. But they won't need him to do that to win this game. It's more, can they use this as an opportunity to keep growing?
Sean, thanks for the time. We appreciate it as always. Good luck with 60 games this weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you so much for having me.
There's Shehan Jeyarajah. All right, now, when we come back, Frank Dolce, the former Ute quarterback, he's coming up next. Stay with us. Enjoy the Spanish Fork Wings and Wheels Air Show this Saturday. Over 15 World War II aircraft will be on display. Many will offer rides or walkthroughs. It's this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
That sounds really cool. Yeah, we'll be down there Friday.
Broadcasting live. DJ PK, we're joined now by Frank Dolce, former Ute quarterback. Frank, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Frank, what
Yes, sir.
happened? Where did it all go wrong? I lean towards, and I know there are a lot of things that went wrong. I think the most surprising thing to me was they were running the ball on first down and getting 2 yards. And that was just bad down and distance. I thought the O-line would be better than that. Maybe it'd be intermittent back and forth. Sometimes you can run it, sometimes you can't. But I was surprised how often they lost the line of scrimmage. But maybe that's not the thing that got you the most. Maybe it was the turnovers. Maybe it was something else.
No, the inability to run the ball. I think that was, we talked about it last week. That was my biggest concern is if Utah couldn't run the ball, if Utah can't run the ball effectively, are they going to be able to pressure a defense through the air? And I came out of that game thinking, whatever we thought about Utah offensively, and maybe some on the defensive side, but mostly on the offensive side, whatever we thought about Utah, we were probably not correct. And so maybe Texas Tech is, as talented as they seemed on Saturday. I think that's part of it. I think they've done a really nice job of going out and finding really talented guys, and the coaching job has done a great job, or coaching staff has done a great job of putting that talent together. So I think that's part of it, is that Texas Tech is good. But the other part of it is Utah didn't rise to the level, and maybe they aren't quite what we thought they were. And maybe it's just, they need to evolve a little bit. I've gone through the whole gamut of, maybe this is this is a soul-searching moment for Utah. Is this a, get back into the office and it's a brand new scrap what we're doing, rethink what we're doing, reevaluate everything, or is it just a matter of you need to tweak a few things here and there? Typically, that's where I land. Is like you just need to tweak a couple things here and there. But the way Utah was dominated at the line of scrimmage, Utah's offense was dominated at the line of scrimmage, and the way that Utah's running game obviously, and then no pressure in the passing game, it feels more drastic than you have to tweak a few things to get it right.
One of the things that I always find astounding is that things work, right? You're struggling, and something works. And why not stick with it? And where I'm going with this, the last possession of the first half, right? They go to the hurry-up offense, and they go right down the field. They probably could have had an opportunity to punch it in for a touchdown, but they're up against the clock, so obviously they had to settle for the field goal. And it worked. It reminded me of Brian Johnson, the way he would run that 2-minute offense. He was an expert at it, and they would do so well in those situations. And then why not try it in the second half, third quarter? Why go back to what you were doing, which just spent almost 2 quarters showing us that it wasn't working?
It's a really good question. I'm sure that a lot of the inefficiency for Utah offensively is coming back to what was Coach Beck doing. What were the adjustments that he was making? Was he making adjustments? And why, like you said, why did that work at the end of the first half, and why wasn't that part of the game plan in the second half? And maybe it was. Sometimes it's hard to tell, and Texas Tech certainly made some adjustments as well. But that's what I mean. Is it feels like there's a more drastic evaluation that needs to take place with this football team. and now you've had your real first test of the season, and what can Utah do offensively to respond to that based on the talent they have available. So I just don't know that. I mean, I think Utah still has to figure out how to try to establish the run game. I mean, that still has to be the foundation of the offense, and maybe they can do that in other ways, or just take the stuff that was really effective and build on that. But the biggest concern to me is Utah's going to have to be able to keep defenses off balance with the passing game, and based on what we saw Saturday, the ability to throw the ball downfield is lacking at the moment. And maybe it was just an off day. I'm hoping it was just an off day, but it feels like the ability to throw the ball downfield is going to be really difficult. And if that's the case, then how can you pressure in the passing game? There's lots of things that you can do, and it's partly what you were talking about is this, short intermediate routes. Get the ball out of Dampier's hands quickly. Get it to one of your athletes as soon as possible. Let those guys go make a play. Effectively use the passing game as an extension of your run game. And then maybe you don't have to necessarily throw the ball downfield to pressure a defense. Maybe you can do it occasionally just to keep them off balance. But certainly adjustments on the offensive side need to be made, and that just naturally starts with the coaching staff and with Coach Beck and how he's going to manage the offense moving forward.
You can make big plays and get that chunk yardage without throwing the ball 40 yards downfield in the air, which clearly does not seem to be their strength after 4 games. We really haven't seen anything to suggest that would be a strength. But, for instance, the big play in the fourth quarter on the touchdown drive, you hit Dallin Bentley kind of medium depth, and he takes off, and now you got a 44-yard play. How many of the skill players do you think can do that? Because we really don't seem to be seeing that out of the running game. We really haven't seen it much out of the receiving game, but maybe there's somebody you believe will do it eventually, or will do it if they get the ball at the right time in the right place.
I think one thing Utah has on the offensive side that is challenging for a defense is, okay, maybe they don't have one guy that you say is, this is the guy that's a game breaker. But they have probably half a dozen, maybe more. Actually, I would say more than half a dozen guys who have been productive in the passing game that a defense will have to worry about. That includes Smith Snowden. That includes Lander Barton, and 2 or 3 tight ends, a few wide receivers, maybe not game breakers, but guys who have more than enough talent and who have made plays already this season. And so the ability to spread the ball around and create mismatches on the defensive side, I think that could be a strength for Utah, especially in the passing game. And getting guys involved more out of the backfield. I'm not sure we saw that much on Saturday, or maybe it was just taken away, but getting guys more involved in the passing game out of the backfield, I think those guys are pretty talented. So the depth of resource, it could be a strength for Utah if they are able to utilize that effectively.
I think they have an opportunity here to get themselves well quickly because West Virginia is rebuilding, obviously. They got smoked by Kansas the other day. So you'd have to think if Utah wins. If they lose that game, then you're just start from ground zero, right? I can't even entertain them losing. I don't want that under any stretch. So they go back there, they win. Then they got a bye. Then they got ASU home, and then they go to BYU. I think they can get themselves right fairly quickly, and that they can look at it and say, and it's all about spin and the mental adjustments and the attitude and everything and the confidence level. Yeah, well, Dampier was a little banged up, but we didn't play well. Okay, that happens from time to time. But here we are. We recovered in the bye. We went to West Virginia, recovered in the bye week, got ASU. maybe they're not cracked up to what we thought. And then you got the rivalry game where your guess is as good as anybody. And so they could be fine from this. I can see a way out fairly quickly is where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I can see that too. I do think I said earlier it's a soul-searching moment. There is part of me that feels like it's kind of a scrap whatever you were doing and reevaluate everything. I think there's some of that probably should be happening. But the truth is, if Utah gets good at the offensive line in the next week, then lots of other things fall into place. So that's where you have to start. Like the offensive line that was so highly touted coming out of camp and in the first couple weeks, that was that was not a passing grade on Saturday for the offensive line. And that position group has to be much better. I would say about Dampier, he was under duress. I know that he was trying to get something going. He was trying to be the leader on the field for his team. But in all of that and under that sort of pressure, he just made some really bad decisions with the football, which led to, a lot of turnovers. And that is to me, that is the biggest thing that needs to be corrected. Okay, so maybe your offense isn't being completely effective, and I know you're trying to make a play, but sometimes you just, you have to throw it into the cheap seats and get rid of the ball and just, even if that leads to a punt or something, but to put your defense on the field so regularly in difficult situations, obviously that didn't turn out. And I think you could see like the Utah defensively, who played so well for 3/4 of the game, just wore down.
Right.
And then you had, I don't know, is there an emerging superstar on the Texas Tech roster? That quarterback came in, and I don't know how you take him out of the starting lineup after a performance like that.
Ooh, Frank. Oh.
I'm actually with you, Frank. The starter Morton underthrew 2 deep balls. He should have had a touchdown and should have another big play. And instead, he had 2 picks. And then
I'm telling you, there's a quarterback controversy in Lubbock right now.
There you go.
Oh man,
start it up, Frank.
If you start it up, it never stops.
Listen,
thank you.
I'm going to say one. Speaking of quarterback controversies, I don't think there's a quarterback controversy at Utah.
But is there a quarterback?
But I think there's. But that's a very good question. Thank you. You finished it for me. Like,
and we're done. Let's just sit here quietly and enjoy the brilliance of that comment.
Yes. I think that just there probably should be some reps for other guys and see what that might look like. And I'm not saying make a drastic change right now, but
Frank, you're advocating way more change than I expect. I view Utah as steady as she goes. They win, they lose. Kyle does what Kyle does.
I drew the line when he said that Kyle should step down.
I'll never say that. I'll never say that. But look, you're exactly right, DJ. Like I'm a like make a few tweaks here and there. Like that's how you.
Okay, well that's fine. I'm fine with that, but no wholesale changes.
But typically I'm like that.
Okay.
I feel slightly differently after that performance against Texas Tech. I think it was just so overwhelmingly not what we expected of Utah, or not what we expect of Utah, that you really have to reevaluate.
Was Kyle right? And he's said it multiple times, and usually when he says stuff like this, he's spot on. This is the best O-line, and we've seen a lot of good O-lines. This is his best O-line. So I'm thinking that, Texas Tech has multiple NFL guys on their D-line. It didn't go your way. Maybe they were more amped up, whatever, blah, blah. But I just have a hard time believing that O-line isn't going to perform a lot better in multiple games going forward, including the next one. Now, I think to PK's point, the whole season pivots on ASU and BYU. If you get swept there, it's over. If you sweep there, wow, Colorado, Cincinnati, you can see a path to 8-1.
Right.
You know, and then in
Yeah,
November, you're playing huge games in November.
Right.
Right? And if they split, it's like, well, you might get in on a 2-loss tiebreaker, but you got to be perfect from here on out. You know, so that all makes sense to me. I just can't believe the O-line is going to be picking up 2 yards on 1st and 10 the rest of the season. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I think you may be right in that it's too much on. Well, Utah was bad. Utah was really bad, and they weren't. They weren't good.
Those scouts were there for a reason.
But maybe we should be thinking more about. Well, maybe Texas Tech is that good, especially on the defensive front. Like they managed that. They managed the defensive line extremely well. Like there was zero push at the line of scrimmage. And I think we've seen that Utah offensive line perform better. So I align with that. Like maybe we're just not we're too negative on what Utah did and not positive enough on what Texas Tech did. And so we'll see how that unfolds. But regardless, that is the position group that has to lead the recovery this week. And if that position group is good, everything else kind of falls into place, I think, for Utah.
Yeah, I can see that. And, I really believe in Dan Pierce's leadership qualities. And I know he's been doubted a time or two. So now we get to see what he's got and that type of thing. So I think overall, I'm not even close to cashing in on these guys.
No, I'm not either. But in terms of where we've seen Utah over the years, to me this feels like I don't know. Maybe there's more of a sense of urgency, I guess, about getting back and really determining what you're doing well, what needs to be fixed, can it be fixed, and all of those things, because it was just such an interesting, dominating effort by Texas Tech, when I think we had really high hopes about what Utah could be, especially on the offensive side.
Yeah.
Frank, we appreciate it as always. You're the man, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Go Utes.
There's Frank Dolce. A reminder, join Hans and Scotty today for the Cougar Preview Show, brought to you by Beehive Meals. Coming up next, Chris Anderson covers the West Virginia Mountaineers. We'll get the lowdown on West Virginia, 2-2. It's been a roller coaster ride. We'll talk with him next. We're joined now by Chris Anderson, publisher of Ear Sports, covering the West Virginia Mountaineers. Chris, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
So we talked to you in the run-up here, but now you've seen 4 games, and you got a better handle. And I'm curious if this has just confused the whole fan base, because I imagine everybody was down after losing to a MAC team. Everybody was pumped after beating Pitt in the rivalry game, and then everybody's down again after Kansas wins 41-10.
Yeah, I think that properly breaks down the emotions of the fan base. Me personally, I was a little more hesitant after the Pitt game, and I think a lot of people in Vegas were, for instance, with the line for the Kansas game being, I think it opened at 10.5, 11.5, jumped up to 13.5, and some fans were like, whoa, that's so high. It's like, hey, like, I get it that West Virginia beat Pitt. It was an emotional comeback win, but nothing in that game changed the problems that West Virginia had in the first 2 games, which were that the offensive line struggled and the offense struggled as well. Like, as on a per-play basis, West Virginia didn't improve. They just happened to get that comeback win.
What's going on at quarterback? It seems like you're playing a bunch of guys.
Yeah, I think Rich Rodriguez doesn't know. I mean, he said, that old saying, if you got 2 quarterbacks, you got none. And back in the summer, Rich Rodriguez was like, I got 5 quarterbacks I can win with. That's not true. I mean, everybody knew it wasn't true when he said it.
Yeah.
But I think he was kind of keeping it open that there's still a competition going. And honestly, like, with the offense he runs and the offense he's always run for decades now, you can't have a game manager. Like the quarterback has to be explosive. They have to be explosive in the run game. And Nico Marchio's not explosive in the run game. I mean, we saw it in the Kansas game that throughout the game he had open space to run. It's just the moment he tried to run into that space, everything seemed to close up real quick. And it was just that the opposing defense was that much faster than them. When Jalen Henderson got in there for one drive, and some people are like, "Hey, this is the backups." It wasn't the backups. It was still Kansas starters. It was still their guys that were starting. All the guys making tackles were their starters, and they went right down the field. I think he ran the ball 6 times for 77 yards on that drive alone. And so I think, he can't pass. He hasn't shown the ability to pass far, but he can run, and so that might be the answer on Saturday when West Virginia takes on Utah.
Do they have the rest of the offense and just lacking a quarterback, or are there other flaws as well?
Oh, the offensive line is horrendous. That was something that I think this was my biggest thing during the offseason was it's going to be a struggle. Like they went out and they hit the portal, and they went out and hit the portal hard in December. They got 5 new transfers in December. They went through spring football with those 5 new transfers and the returners they had, and then went out and got 5 more transfers on the offensive line. And this is just one of those situations where it's like, hey, actions speak louder than words. And when a coaching staff looks at it throughout the entire spring and says, oh, my God, we need 5 more offensive line transfers, there's a problem. And it's been a problem. I don't see how it's getting better. And, they haven't even tried new guys. Maybe Saturday's the day they try new guys. But as I've kind of said to West Virginia fans, the coaching staff's not purposefully playing the wrong guys. It may just be a personnel problem that bad on the offensive line.
Do they start going to gadget plays, trying to create something if they can't sustain drives?
Yeah, and I think they're going to try some things. The problem is, the quarterback position so far has been pedestrian, I think is a good word for it. The offensive line has been dreadful. Their star running back, Jaheim White, got hurt, out for the season. Ty Edwards, who came in for the Pitt game and was great for that game, got hurt at the end of that game, missed Kansas, might miss this weekend. I think Coach Rodriguez said he was probably more doubtful than anything during his radio show on Monday night. So, and then you lose your number 2 wide receiver to injury for the season as well. So you're really stretching. I mean, you'd love to get some gadget plays in, but to whom? All your best athletes, all your best guys might be gone already.
Didn't they bring in something like 70 guys? I'm not sure Rich Rod knows everybody's name. So with that in mind, isn't this somewhat expected?
Yeah, I think it was. I think, honestly, it was something like 70-some, almost 80 new guys. I think it was 50-some transfers plus another 20-some high school additions. And they were adding pieces to the roster. They were legitimately adding guys that have since played the week before the season opener. Like 2 or 3 weeks into fall camp, they were still adding guys that have since played and are contributing to this team. I think the most alarming part is, and for me personally, I was like, yeah, offensive line is bad, but Rich Rodriguez, offensive mind, offensive guy. The offense will be at least decent. And really, it's been the other way. The defense has been great. It fell apart in the second half against Kansas, but that was because the offense, I think, was like 7 straight 3-and-outs, and eventually you just can't anymore. And so I think that might be the part that's really kind of getting to fans and being like, wow, this is crazy. Like, the offense was supposed to be at least good. That's what Rodriguez is known for, and it just hasn't.
So are people resetting the expectations for the season? Are they giving up on 2-2? Are they giving up on bowl eligibility already?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have. I mean, my stance before the season was 5-7 or 6-6, and I was leaning 6-6 because as the season approached, I was like, hey, this defense might be good, and if the offense is decent as I expect, and the defense is good, 6-6 is a real possibility. Now the offense is bad. And I think a lot of people, if you go check out my message board, it's, does he get fired at 2-10? Is 3-9 too much to ask for? Those kind of things. That's a little over dramatic. I think they'll get a couple more wins, but 6-6 might be tough sledding given the remaining schedule.
How about from the defensive perspective? I watched some of that Kansas game. I happen to think Kansas is good, and I know they had a losing season last year, but I think they can contend, and if they got a break or two, possibly find their way into Arlington. So I can't really say that I was surprised. Utah's coming off a bad offensive performance. What do you expect from that to the defense from West Virginia against Utah's offense?
I think it's really just a matter of if the offense can kind of keep them up. Because in that Kansas game, in the first, I think Kansas scored early, and then there was a stretch there where, and that was just off a blown assignment. It was like 4th and 2, and everybody went for the short route, and they hit another guy and got a long TD. And that was like really the only bad play for much of the first half. And the defense forced something like 4, 5, 6 straight punts, but the offense had 7 straight 3-and-outs or something similar. So the defense kind of fell apart. So I could see the defense, they're good. Like, they have a handful of guys that you could see getting NFL draft consideration next year. Michael Coates, he's one of the best corners in the country. He graded out as one of the best corners in the country per PFF last year. His coverage grade, the only guys higher than him last season when he was at Nevada, are playing in the NFL right now. And he's at West Virginia, and I'm coming into yesterday's game and then or Saturday's game, and even after Saturday's game, I believe he's been targeted only like 4 times, and he's given up 1 catch for 2 yards. So he's just shutting down an entire half of the field. And they just got Jamari Robinson back, who was the Conference USA player, the Defensive Player of the Year last year. He had some eligibility issues. Kansas was his first appearance, and the Jayhawks, as you said, they did a great job on offense, and they did an even better job of kind of keeping him out of the play. Like, his specialty is rushing the passer, and they just went away from him, put him in coverage, just did a nice job with that. And so I could see West Virginia, keeping things tight, keeping it low scoring against Utah.
Kyle Whittingham has said this is the best offensive line he's had as a coach there, but they could not run the ball at all against Texas Tech. It looks like the run defense, and maybe you can speak specifically to the front seven or really just the down linemen here, they got run over last week against Kansas, but the rushing numbers in the previous games, even against Ohio, and certainly in the win against Pitt, were pretty good. So what do you think of the run defense, especially right at the line of scrimmage?
Yeah, that was a position where they returned, out of all the positions, that was the one I think had the most returning snaps or the most returning experience from the Neil Brown era. Eddie Vistaranen, Hassani Redwood, Hammond Russell, those guys are all contributors / starters on that defensive front, and they're good. They are above average starters on the defensive line. And then you add in some of the new guys that they got, like Eddie Kelly from Missouri, Devin Grant. You're kind of like, who's elite? I don't know. Like maybe Jamari Robinson, if you want to call him that. He kind of plays this bandit position, which is a stand-up defensive end edge rusher. But as far as the down linemen go, they've really just stacked a lot of above-average players, and it's been pretty good. Now, sometimes it gets exposed, again, when you face something like you mentioned, like Kansas just might be really good on offense, and the defensive line just worn down. And some of the problems with that was also the next three, the linebackers. I think the linebackers for West Virginia had, trying to remember the total number, but it was like 7 or 8 missed tackles just for the linebackers. So maybe the defensive line was doing a decent job, but the linebackers just couldn't finish the play.
Mm-hmm. We used to like to watch Rich Rod at Arizona because at any given moment during the game, his head might explode. He was highly entertaining on the sidelines. Has he had any of that this year?
Yeah, I mean, he's had a couple moments in some of those games. He's had good and bad. Like he's an emotional guy. He certainly wears his emotions on his sleeves. You know, against Kansas, there were a couple moments where he kind of lost it. There was one particular play where West Virginia went for it on 4th and 2. And I'm not sure who he was mad at because he's the play caller. But, like, they went for it on 4th and 2, and every receiver went at least 10 yards down the field. So I don't know if somebody ran the wrong route. There was no, there's no quick hit. There was no options there. And they turned it over on downs, and he lost it. And again, there's no clear answer who he was talking to, who he's mad at, but he was upset. But it goes the other way, too. I mean, the Pitt game, he was about as happy as could be, and somebody tried to bring up, like, redemption for the last time I played Pitt, and he was just, like, shot it down. I was like, I'm not answering that. You can't ruin my good mood tonight. I'm not. I know it. Get out of here. So.
Do you sense that the community is rallying and they're going to have more money going forward? Because it seems like this is only escalating.
We'll see. I mean, he was, when he was brought back, there was a schism, amongst the fan base of, just the way he left and how things ended last time, of whether they really wanted him back or not. And I think winning cures that. So I think, if you would have asked me after that Pitt game, I would have said, man, I bet you these donors are ready to go. You asked me after the Kansas game, I bet there's some people that don't want to put money forth anymore. And that's a problem for West Virginia. Mike, the guy I work with, we were just having the conversation on our podcast the other day. Where does West Virginia rank as far as the money they put forth for NIL, for rev share, out of the 12 teams that they face, or the 11 FBS teams that they face on their schedule this year and themselves? So 1 through 12 out of those 12 teams. And we decided they were probably 10th out of those 12 teams, which, I don't think that's the definitive reason they're struggling this year, but that's going to be a problem as the years go along.
Well, Chris, as always, we appreciate the time. Thanks for talking a little football with us, and enjoy the game on Saturday.
All right, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, there's Chris Anderson talking West Virginia football. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are next.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NFL.
And what if you get that opportunity? I know you will want to with Dak. What would that feel like?
It's going to be painful. You know what I mean? Dak's my guy. He was always like a good mentor for me. But you know what it is. I always told him if I ever faced him that, it'll be a great matchup. So I'm excited to see what Sunday brings us. So.
Our Subaru Outback most was the moment they want to be. And that's why our family will only drive a Subaru. Subaru is rated #1 in safety, higher than any other automotive brand.
Green Bay Packers pass rusher Micah Parsons admitting it's going to be painful to chase and potentially sack Dallas Cowboy quarterback Dak Prescott as Parsons prepares to face his former team. PK, you take the money. You got to go get the guy, right?
Yeah, but I think that's a situation where it's just now on a Wednesday or Tuesday when he makes that statement. I think as he's chasing him, he's not going to be thinking, oh, that's my buddy.
He's going to be thinking, I got to get sacks. That's what they pay me for. I got to get him.
NFL players, they want sacks. There's no question about it.
Hey now. Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver Mike Evans expected to miss 3 to 4 weeks with a strained left hamstring. He picked it up this past Sunday in the Bucs' victory over the Jets. He missed 3 weeks last season due to a similar injury and also missed multiple games in 2019 due to injuries to his right hamstring. Mike Evans is a rock for that team. That guy can go out and seems like he can get 80 catches and 1,000 yards at any moment, any season.
Well, but he's hurt, so maybe he was a rock. He's getting older.
Yeah, right?
Injuries happen.
I thought that was Yock and Q, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't. I just do my job. I let you guys figure out the
way to press. Way to power on through, PK.
Yeah, I once did a show in Sacramento, NCAA tournament. The entire time for 3 hours, there was feedback.
Really? And you just pressed on through?
I went and saw the doctor to remove the blood out of my ears at the end of the show.
Doc, you gotta help me. Drill straight into my brain, Doc.
Everything I said came back to haunt me, literally.
Well, I'm glad that's fixed.
But I don't hear it anymore.
Washington Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin seeking multiple opinion on options for the quadriceps injury he sustained this past Sunday against the Raiders. His status this week is to be determined. Man, no matter what we say about the NFL, PK, we get injuries here every day. Important players, teams all over the league. You got to be good, and then somehow you got to be able to survive all this. You got to maybe get a little lucky and not have as many injuries as somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
You got to figure out a way to have backups who, man, if they can't, you just can't replace Mike Evans, but can you replace 70 or 80% of his production? You got, it's just such a grind. These guys are going down left and right, and we're 3 weeks in.
Kyle announced Hunter Andrews is going to be gone. He's an emerging tight end for them,
Yep.
and so that's a season ender. And Urban always talked about that magical year that they had. They had very few, if any, injuries.
Right.
Yeah.
The Giants are turning to Jaxson Dart, the former Corner Canyon Charger, as their starting quarterback. Russell Wilson will serve as Dart's primary backup after starting the first 3 games of the season and getting benched.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Dart gets his chance.
Been following him. Obviously, I know guys who know him, who coached him, and they have high endorsements at multiple levels, not at the NFL level, but at multiple levels. I'm excited to see. It was obvious it was going to come, whether it was this month, next month, or even next year. It was going to happen, and let's see what he can do, man. We can give him a spark. He got, if nothing else, with the rookies, him and Scattaboo, they're re-energizing the fan base there in the metropolitan area.
Well, there's no doubt about that. There is hope in the short run, but, man, they do need some wins, especially if they're guys who were there before, who energized them a few years ago before they fell out of favor. If guys like Daniel Jones are going to go and, turn the Colts around. Maybe the Colts are just 3-0 and it's a soft schedule and they'll come back to earth, but that has got to be painful to watch their guys move on and suddenly have success. But they got a new crop of guys. Maybe these guys can get it rolling. DJ and PK.
Hashtag college football.
Deion Sanders said the Buffs do not have revenge on their mind as they prepare to take on BYU. Obviously, the Cougars routed the Buffaloes in last season's Alamo Bowl. He says, we ain't with that get-back stuff. I ain't with that get-back stuff. I'm with that let's get them stuff. They played their butts off, kicked our butts in a bowl game. Now we have a whole new team.
Yeah, well, he's absolutely right, especially more than ever with the transfer portal.
More than ever, right?
Grizzly Bear Bachmeier had nothing to do with this, and the guys who were playing quarterback for Colorado, the anticipated starter, had nothing to do with it. I never really bought that, even back when it was more what we defined as normal, but certainly now, forget it.
Yeah, when you're getting 50, 60 new guys on the team, it's just hard to think. Guys are trying to hold on to their job. Guys are trying to play well to get to the NFL or whatever. So there's too much other stuff. There's way too much turnover now. The Oklahoma State Cowboys fired Mike Gundy. Their longtime head coach is out. 20-plus seasons, 19 straight winning seasons at one point, but 0-9 in the conference last year and losing to Tulsa this year. Off the field, there's been conflict with him. They'd reworked his contract to make this a little easier to do, and now they have done it. I guess it's only surprising because he's just been there so long, but if you just look at the last few months, it's not really that surprising at all.
Yeah, if you're just going to go the snapshot, and that's what we have in sports today, certainly at the college level, now more than ever. I mean, with these kids getting paid, I mean, he got the job. They listed him as the second longest coach because I think he was hired literally earlier in the week from Kyle Whittingham. Mm-hmm. And so now Kyle is the second guy over there. Iowa's the longest. And Kyle has it as now as the second. And you look at his record, man, it took him 3 seasons. And the only losing seasons he had was his first season and last season. And just for comparison's sake, Kyle's had 3, and under no circumstance am I saying Kyle should be fired. That's absolutely the furthest thing from my mind, literally. But I'm just throwing it out there for comparison's sake. It took him 3 years, and he had a losing record. The second and third seasons were, I think, 7 and 6, somewhere in there, which makes sense because in those days it took longer to rebuild. You just couldn't revamp the roster. But then it was on. man, and he had great times. He's a former quarterback there, and he was an assistant coach there, among other places, before he got the gig, and he's been there for 2 decades. It's sad that it's ending this way, but you got to win, and this the other stuff, off the field stuff. If he was rolling out 10 wins a season, it wouldn't matter. I mean, Michael Wilbon might be offended. I understand that, but as long as you're winning, you get to do basically whatever you want there. And so it's sad. The coordinator from the Falcons, Robinson, played there, was a quarterback there. As I understand it, he's been tabbed as a leading candidate. We'll have on Trammell tomorrow to talk about it. But, yeah, it's the fall from grace for a really, really solid program, metaphorically, was like virtually overnight. It's amazing.
Everything was awesome until it wasn't. And then it was a long way from awesome. I mean, that wasn't that wasn't a 5-7 campaign. That was 3 wins and the bottom fell out. 9 straight. And the fact that they weren't just losses, some of them weren't even competitive.
No.
And then you got the off-the-field tension, too. When people are pulling for you, sometimes they'll give you a little more time, a little more rope, but they weren't pulling for him. So there you go. Lost 11 of 12, and that's the end of that. It didn't help them that Oregon blew them out 69-3. I mean, going to Oregon, you're realistically you're going to lose, but 69-3, that is hard to take. So now they move on. The other college news, John Mateer in Oklahoma, starting quarterback, broken bone in his right throwing hand. No timeline for him to be back, but he's having surgery, so he's going to be out for a while. Some reports say it'll be about 4 weeks.
Yeah,
he's going to miss the Texas game.
I think they can withstand that, though, when you look at their schedule, because the schedule in this month, which I think probably, again, we can ask Trammell tomorrow, it gets real tough in November. I mean, the last from right now with the rankings, and they were talking about it this morning. That's why it's on my mind as I was driving in listening. October 25th, they literally close the season from October 25th till the end. Right now, every team is ranked. Yeah. So you would take the Texas game, miss that to get the other games. So if he can come back, and he maintains his ability that he had or regains it, they probably should be okay, because I think they've got a bye this week, and then it's Kent State, Texas you mentioned, and South Carolina. Then it's on. I mean, this schedule is really, really tough. There's no doubt about it. And the kid that they have, I think his name's Hawkins, he started a few games last year. So they have the potential to be okay.
It does come down, NIL is such a new thing. Quarterbacks don't want to sit, so if you pay them enough, are they willing to sit, especially if you show them the stats on how often backups get to play?
Well, yeah, too. I think with Mateer, it was thought of have big season, go NFL.
Right. Yeah, right. You're only sitting 1 year, right? Yeah. So are you willing to do that so that you have a backup? You have what Texas Tech had. They went to the backup. They got 3 touchdowns on 3 straight possessions, and you're just throwing the ball.
Right, and they have a backup who's played.
So, and 4 weeks is just a guess, but the first 3 weeks are bye week Kent State. You got to figure it's 2 for sure. So bye week Kent State, and then Texas, and at South Carolina.
As I said.
And then, like you said, oh, man. There was a reason a lot of people didn't think the Sooners weren't picked to win the SEC. I mean, these schedules, they aren't even. They aren't close to even in some places, and Oklahoma definitely got a tough schedule this year. No doubt about that. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NBA.
Celtic star Jason Tatum did not rule out returning this coming season if he's able to recover from the Achilles tendon tear he suffered in the Eastern Conference semifinals in the NBA playoffs. That surprises me. I mean, I get players want to be back, but I think of that as a year-long injury. And I also think when you come back mid-season, it's not the same as a real season. You can be a fraction of your former self. I would think they got to be pretty cautious with him. They can't have him re-injuring that. And how good can he possibly be if he sat out the full season?
I don't know, man. I'm not a doctor.
Phoenix Suns facing several lawsuits from current and former employees told employees this spring that in order to retain their jobs, they need to sign an agreement limiting their ability to sue the team over workforce matters. They'll be submitted first to confidential mandatory mediation. Suns maybe need to quit doing stuff that has everybody suing them. I mean, that'd be another theory, too.
Yeah, but
does
this former employees or even current. Is this Ishbia or the other guy? I don't know that.
Yeah, I don't know. DJ and PK.
Hashtag college basketball.
Iowa State guard Tamim Lipsey, their career leader in steals, suffered a knee injury that's expected to sideline him 4 to 6 weeks. He started all 103 games he's played for Iowa State to this point in his career. 103 games, PK. That's a lot of basketball.
Oh.
That is a ton of experience.
Oh, yeah. It's dripping.
It's dripping?
With experience, yeah.
It's just dripping off.
Well, I mean, that's a team that figures to compete with the Cougars and others, but it is only 4 to 6, so we'll see.
Should be good for the conference season.
Yes, exactly.
And staying in the Big 12 a little closer to home, Will Openshaw commits to BYU basketball. Timpview guy.
I have no idea about him. This is the first time hearing of him.
He's a 6'10" forward from Timpview High School.
6'11" with the buzz cut.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice.
Plays with Dean Ruckert, who just recently committed to BYU.
What grade is he in?
He is a member of the 2020, this upcoming class, 2026. He's going to go on a mission, though, so he's planning on being back for 2028.
Oh, yeah, Kevin Young will be in the NBA by then.
There's always that possibility. That's the undertone to all of this. Will he be still in Provo?
Just kidding, BYU fans.
NCAA made history yesterday. They declared former G League athlete Derek Darlin eligible to play for Santa Clara. Darlin's a native of the Central African Republic, spent the past 2 seasons playing in the G League after being a graduate of the NBA Academy Africa. Well, now that everybody's getting paid, you could have played minor league basketball and go to college.
Yeah, I don't
How about
understand
that?
it. Junior college doesn't count. You can get paid. I've never understood these guys. What's the kid from BYU? They got him, and then they determined he was a junior or something.
Oh, yeah, it's the forward.
Like they're pulling
Moskovich, yeah.
slots out of a hat, pieces of paper.
He played in EuroLeague for multiple years.
Find out who in your family you're going to buy Christmas gifts for that year. You know what I mean? I can't. Who can figure this stuff out?
Now, all of a sudden, everybody in the top college basketball leagues is pivoting, thinking, all right, are there any former G League guys I need to put on my team? Talk about older, more experienced athletes, right? DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
In the pitch, swinging a high fly ball, well hit, left center, throw Armstrong back, it's gonna go, home run! Francisco Alvarez stops and looks into the Mets dugout before he gets to first base. Now he goes into his home run trap, and the Mets have regained the lead. It is 9-7 New York.
Here's the pitch. Swung on, hit in the air, deep to right field. Ryan O'Hearn has gotten it done. A grand slam in the bottom of the first inning. And the Padres jump all over Zimmerman and the Brewers. It is 4-0, just 1 out into their night. Swung on, base hit left field. Tawa rounding third. Here comes Cosgrove to the plate. Diamondbacks win. Do you believe?
Diamondbacks were down against the Dodgers, but they rally, PK. Get off the deck, trailing 4-0 in the 7th inning. 3 in the 7th, 2 in the 9th, and they win 5-4. They're just 1 game out of the last wild card spot.
Oh, well, they entered the day 1 game out, so they didn't gain anything.
But they almost lost it, and it's pretty late to give up a game.
Yeah, but that's because Shohei is on a pitch count. I mean, he dominated him.
He did dominate.
And
they keep letting him go a little longer.
Yeah, he went 6. I watched the entire game. I was exchanging texts with an old college roommate of mine who's a L.A. Dodger fan, and he's texting me, watch, we got the worst bullpen in the entire baseball. He said, we got the worst bullpen ever. And so I looked it up, blown saves. And sure enough, they lead the league, they lead both leagues, as a matter of fact, in blown saves. And And then they end up, which is kind of ironic because then they end up blowing it. But Shohei, he throws 100, but that's they call it the sweeper now these days for some reason. And these guys are sort of flailing. They were like swatting at flies in the dark, man. He reminded me of Randy Johnson from the other side.
Yeah, him being a righty and Randy being a lefty.
Yeah.
So can they get away from the bullpen here early on and say take 2 starters and have one guy pitch 4 innings and one guy pitch 5 and sideline the bullpen guys? There's so many days off early in the playoffs. I don't think you can do it later in the playoffs.
But what difference does it make? So whether you go out in the first or the World Series, for them, it's a bust.
Yeah, at some point the bullpen's going to have to come through.
Yeah. So sure.
We just see unorthodox stuff done in the playoffs, and I was just thinking, what unorthodox stuff do they do?
Well, can Shohei can he be taken out as a pitcher and still go back in? He's a DH.
No, that's why they talked about him having to play in the outfield.
Yeah. So throw him every few batters. You can do whatever you want. I mean, I just can't get people out. You're in big trouble. You can have all the offense you want if you can't get people out. I mean, he's like the Cubs. My gosh, Cubs. The Diamondbacks would actually be in first place if the freaking Cubs hadn't lost 5 in a row. Can you win a ball game? You're up 6-1, you fetchers.
The Mets beat the Cubs 9-7, and it was 6-1 in the 4th, and the Mets went for 5 in the 5th, and they went back and forth, and the Mets got 2 in the 8th to win it 9-7. So the Mets now 1 game in front of the Reds, who lost. They had been tied. So the Mets have a game on the Reds and a game on the Diamondbacks in the race for that last playoff spot. Now, over in the American League, how about Cleveland? 10.5 games out of the division lead September 1st, and now on September 24th, they are in first place, and Detroit is now holding down the last wild card. Only a game in front of Houston. Detroit could fall all the way out.
I know. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a major collapse. And good on the Guardians.
Yeah. It's the Red Sox, the Tigers, and the Astros for 3 wild cards. Unless the Tigers can retake the division lead, then that would put Cleveland in that wild card battle. Boston's a game up. Houston's a game back. DJ and PK.
#golf.
Due to bad weather in the forecast, the Ryder Cup moved up its traditional opening ceremony to today from Thursday. And the event is typically when the captains announce their lineup for the first session Friday. So, saving the opening ceremony, and they don't really have much time because they're playing 36 holes Thursday and Friday. It's not like a tour event where you can stop playing for 3 or 4 hours and you can make it up. There isn't much extra time there to squeeze out to be sitting around watching bad weather.
Yeah, I mean, this is just classic East Coast weather. I keep on my phone my old hometown in New Jersey, just the weather. I don't know why I do it. I mean, I only get back there every few years. I was there this past summer. And today, 60%. Tomorrow, I leave no doubt, 100% chance of rain. Friday, 65%. Sunday, 60%. I mean, this is what you get back there. That's why nobody has a sprinkler system.
What is trending is brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. Coming up, Riley Jensen's going to join us, talk college football at 8 o'clock. Brian Howell, Colorado Buffaloes beat writer for the BuffZone and the Boulder Daily Camera. At 9 o'clock to give us a lowdown on the BYU Colorado game. What does he think of CU through the first month of games? We'll talk with him at 9 o'clock. DJ and PK, hot takes or toast? We'll get the question of the day next. Stay with us.
It's game week for the Utes, and the KSL Sports Zone is getting you ready for kickoff. The Utes head back east for their first Big 12 road game of the season as they get set for a showdown with West Virginia. Listen all week long for the best coverage of Utah football. Then catch college football Saturday game day at 10 a.m. with the postgame show immediately following the game on KSLSports.com.
Let's go then. Let's go, baby.
Your home for the best coverage of Utah football is live on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination to KSLSports.com/contest. Listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week. And get this, it's sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. Their menu changes all the time. It goes on and on and on.
Well, got to mix it up. People want to eat different stuff.
I've had that stuff. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the one who'll eat the same thing over and over again. My wife's like, you keep eating the same stuff. Like, yeah, I like it. I don't think I'm wired right in that regard. Maybe in other regards too, but certainly that one. All right, PK, it is time for the question of the morning. Hot takes or toast? The Utah Jazz waive KJ Martin. You surprised? Good move? What's behind it? It does feel like there's more players than minutes, and this suggests maybe that the draft picks are going to get played, and they're going to find out what they have. And I don't want to say that they're going to play the young guys because KJ Martin is only 24 years old, but at the same time, he's been in the league longer. He's more of a known quantity. And I guess that is why he's out there looking for another team now. I would think the prospect of sitting on the bench, watching the young guys play, and maybe not really being able to compete for it because they want to see what they have, you can see where an agent, a GM, a coach, and a player, you can see where that would lead to some hard conversations that probably led to this.
Yeah, but then what do you do with Anderson, Love, and Niang?
I suspect that they're going to play those guys and that they will be here. But, if you'd asked me about KJ Martin 2 days ago, I would have said the same thing.
You would have?
Yeah, I didn't.
That would have been hard honestly hadn't thought about him even on the team.
I wouldn't have thought that they were going to waive him.
Well, they save, I think salary cap-wise, several million, up to $10 million maybe.
Yeah. They do, that's, but they also, we were talking with Locke about how they spent money in the marketing deal because you got to get to the floor. You've got to spend, I think Locke said it was 90% of the cap.
Well, it's not to save money. It's to maybe use the money for other.
Somebody else.
Yeah.
Something else they want to add to the team.
And what do they have there? I really don't need to see Kyle Anderson play 1 minute for the Jazz. Not one. Nothing against him. He's had a really fine career.
He's 32 years old, and, it wouldn't surprise any of us, teams are going to have injuries, and somebody's going to need a guy who can come in and play and be a veteran and move the ball and hit the open shots and do that. He's not a superstar, obviously, but he can play, and he can help you, especially – there's always teams, and the roster's changed so much, but last year we were talking about the Warriors, the Suns, and the Denver Nuggets. They all had great starting groups, but they needed some vets off the bench. Now, Denver in the offseason seems to have addressed that. Phoenix, meanwhile, is tearing everything down. But we're going to see those teams again, especially once injuries and attrition hit. So, maybe he's just a week or two away from being moved himself. Who knows? I get your point. How many minutes are those three guys going to play? And how many minutes are they going to take away from Hendricks or Filipowski or whoever?
I want to see Ace Bailey and Flipper play until they beg Hardy to take them out because they're so gassed. And Hendricks, I think, needs to be brought along. If he hadn't had the leg injury and he had in his season that he showed well last year. Now, none of that happened, so we're starting, in a sense, from scratch from that point of view. But then bring him along a little slower to see where he's at physically because of his situation. But the other two guys,
If Ace Bailey's playing 35 minutes a night, we can all stand up and applaud.
And I want to see Flipper. I want to see these guys go out there and play until they're gassed or they've shown you're not ready for this. You just can't, you can't force it if it's not there. But I want them at the start to play as much because who cares if you're losing games? And I don't buy that crap. I get so sick of the cliches that, oh, man, you got to be careful because you don't want to ruin his confidence and then he'll be shot for the rest of his life. If that's the case, then he's mentally weak anyway. Freaking Kobe shot air balls. Did it ruin his confidence? No. Why not have the tough situations now? If I hear anybody say that, I am going to pitch a fit, and I'm going to get right in their face, and I'm going to say, don't ever say that again. Do you understand me?
Your fit pitching ability is not doubted. So what's the difference between that and you saying with Ace Bailey, well, you can't force feed it if it's not there? I mean, isn't that a different way of saying the same thing?
But it's going to be there. Because my margin of not being there is like Grand Canyon wide. I'm saying if it's the Cody Williams last year, where it was it was embarrassing.
Well, what we really want is answers. And if the answer is, okay, you're overmatched, you're not there yet, now play somebody else. But what we really want is answers.
Bailey might be overmatched, but so what? He's the highest pick you've had in years, the highest pick that this group of leadership has had, and everybody thought he should have been higher. And so did you get fortunate? Yeah. You know, several years ago, 20-plus years ago, they got fortunate and then rode that for 20 years. And maybe that's the same thing here. You know, I don't know. But I want to find out, and I want this kid to play as much as possible now. What's the point of having the 25-26 season if, he's struggling a little bit and his confidence is wavering? Find out what type of intestinal fortitude he has. Nothing is going to be handed to you in this league. And if you have a confidence issue, then there's no way a coach is going to be able to instill confidence. I don't buy that. You can compliment the guy all you want. And if the guy still goes out there and doesn't do it, did Del Harris give Kobe Bryant confidence? No. Who gave it to him? Himself.
There are ways of bringing guys along. For the guys who aren't quite there yet, they can make sure they get their bench minutes against the bench guys on the other team who aren't quite as good. Keep them away from getting bludgeoned by star players. They can still bring them along and get playing time.
Let them get bludgeoned. So what? That you're feeding right into the cliches that we know we're going to hear.
No.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Let them play.
Somebody's got to play the bench. Somebody's got to play the bench minutes. Somebody's got to play the starter minutes.
Can you repeat that? I didn't understand that. Take it slower.
Which 8 guys do you want to play at the same time? Somebody's got to sit, PK. This guy who isn't performing as well, it could be that guy. Plus, you don't want to reward guys, don't you? Want to challenge them? Hey, you got to earn these minutes. You got to play better. You got to improve. I mean, that was thinking about Kobe shooting the air balls. He knew he had to improve,
right?
And he did. So it made the decision.
So you're gonna have him improve by sitting on the bench. It makes no sense.
Well, all 8 guys, all 9 draft picks, can't play at the same time.
I mentioned 2 guys. You're the ones who mentioned 8, 9 guys. I've only said 2 guys here. That's it. You got 3 possible with Hendricks.
Oh, really? And the rest of them, you don't have the curiosity.
Do what
over?
you're saying. But I want to see these 2. Apparently, I didn't make myself clear. I want to see these 2 play until their tongues are hanging out. I want to find out, how good are you? And I don't care if it's a tough situation and you're going up against somebody who's bigger, stronger, tougher, and older. I don't care. So what? I'm done babying people. Where does that get you? Forget that. Where does that get you? No. I want these 2 guys to see what we have here. I mentioned those 2. You can do whatever the crap you want with the rest of them. I don't care. I want to see these 2 guys being run out there as much as possible. That's my point. Somehow you got to bench guys and 8 guys, and I don't know how you got there, but you did. I don't care. Do whatever you want.
I didn't know you'd given up as much on the other guys. I given up.
Well, I only mentioned those 2.
Well, okay.
But, and then with Hendricks, because of his injury situation and where he's at, I don't have any idea where he's at. Right. You know what I mean?
No, I do. If he's on some kind of minutes count, a pitch count type of thing, I guess we'd get that. They may not. I don't know. We'll see what they say about him. That could limit him as far as playing back-to-backs or playing big minutes or whatever. That wouldn't surprise me if they brought him along slowly in that regard.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we're still going to judge him in, whatever
10,
15, 20, 25 minutes they okay him for.
Right. Well, I'm going to judge him accordingly, and we all are. If you don't have that this year, then turn off the TV, turn off the radio, and don't pay attention.
But I want to pay attention because I'm looking for angles. I'm looking for stuff that can bring some form of optimism here. Because if you're just going to go by record, then it could be viewed as a dire situation. But I think you have to go beyond that, and you have to look inside the team and what is the objective? What are they trying to accomplish here by doing this, right? And so that's where I'm at, to see the development. And the two guys I want to see get the most opportunity to develop are Bailey and Filipowski, unless they just absolutely can't handle it whatsoever. But I don't anticipate that because Kyle is going into his third year. So come on now. I mean, you're overmatched or whatever. I mean, what level of player is this young man, right? I mean, he lit it up in the summer league. I got that. That's not the be-all, end-all. But Donovan Mitchell lit it up in the summer league, and he's pretty good. And he's a perpetual all-star. He's not the first-team All-NBA, but he still is a very good player. Is there a chance, outside chance, that Filipowski could develop into that? Well, I want to give it a shot. See what he's got. And Bailey, gosh, I spent all winter last year at 4 o'clock in the afternoon watching Rutgers basketball. Yes. True story.
No, I know. There were 3 or 4 college teams we watched last year that we never watch.
Yeah. Right. I was calling up my cousins back east. Hey, you going to the game, man? What'd you think? Obviously because he went to Rutgers here, and he's a tantalizing prospect.
You tantalized by any of the other guys? Sensabaugh, Collier, Cody Williams, is he going to be better year 2? He's had a whole year to add weight and grow and all that kind of stuff. He's an age where he ought to be doing that anyway.
He should be, yeah, for sure. You know, I'm a big body language guy and just the way you handle yourself, and I want to see him, how he looks when he's just out there. What level of confidence? Because I don't think that Hardy – you can sort of give him confidence, but ultimately it has to come from the individual. If the individual doesn't believe in himself, I can have all the psychologists, and we can get Riley Jensen on if we wanted to talk about all these things, and ultimately the individual has to decide, he or she, when it comes in life, but also comes in an athletic standpoint, can I do this, man? Now, I've been browbeat. I was 4th option in Colorado. I mean, I was way down the pecking order, and I was injured most of the time, so that was a wasted year. And this past season in the NBA, that was a wasted year. What am I going to do here? Where am I going? Where am I going with this? And what am I going to do about it? Not what Will Hardy's going to do about it. Not what his brother's going to do about it. I could argue that his brother could have a bigger influence than anybody who's ever received a dime on the Jazz payroll. And so what is he going to do? How is he going to approach it? How is he going to look? Now, I don't think he's going to be Scottie Pippen or anything like that in his second year. Maybe probably never. I get that. But how do you just look? What is your physical appearance when you step out on the floor? That's what I want to see.
You are not alone there, because that's a pretty good draft pick. I mean, it's not a top 5 pick, but you don't get to draft in the top 10 that often either. And there's plenty of good players who are picked in that range.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
What do they get?
Yeah, show me something, man. And just show me. Don't be hanging your head if you miss a shot or two. I guarantee you're going to miss a shot or two. You know what I mean? Just tell yourself, I belong here, man. This is what I do. This is what I've done my whole life. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going to be doing for the next 10 years, maybe longer. And that's where I'm at. This is my job. And I got here because people thought that I should be here. Jerry Colangelo, right? Phoenix guy all the way through. Interviewed him a million times. He loved to tell you how great he was. He told me every time I interviewed him. Right? One time he called me when I was at my parents' house. Nobody had cell phones back then. And, boy, my parents were really impressed because they answered the phone. Yeah. Who's calling? Oh, this is Jerry Colangelo. and he said that the Suns had just barely started. So we're going way back, 40 years or whatever, 50 years. And he's 28 years old, and I think he's working for the Bulls. And they fly him out, right? It's in January to be the GM. He's thinking, oh, my gosh, this is awesome, right? And they ask him, why do you think that you should have this job? And he turned around and he said, right back at him. He's 28 years old. He said, well, you think I should have this job. That's why you paid for me to come out here and interview with you.
That's the kind of stuff you love. Yeah. You love that stuff. It's 28-year-old just popping off right at him.
Right.
Don't ask me your stupid questions. You should already know the answer to them.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're the ones who thought that you brought me out here.
That's a good answer.
Right. And obviously he's a legend there. He's the godfather of the Suns, and he always will be. He'll never not be. And he's in his 80s now. But, yeah, he's held in such high regard. And then the other thing I want to see your prophecy that you gave 10 years ago that Yusuf Nurkic is really a good NBA player, because I haven't seen it yet.
That's all over. Ever since he got hurt, his numbers have – he's had a couple big injuries, and he's just –
Oh, what could have been, man. He could have been Greg Oden.
He was a solid big.
Oh, he was. But if he hadn't been injured, I don't even know if Jokic is even in the league.
Oh, please. I think that I'm a little surprised you haven't mentioned Bryce Sensabaugh in all of this. And maybe you rank him third and you just went to the first two and you haven't gone down the list. But that's a guy who started shooting the ball a lot better at a time when shooting's at a premium, and obviously that's what they give you the point, that's why they give you points. You got to be able to shoot it. But you can't just be a shooter. He got a lot better shooting last year, but are his rebound numbers ever going to move? The assists ever going to move? And he doesn't have to be a defensive stopper, lockdown guy, but, you can't have people going at you all the time either. That's a little embarrassing.
I don't know what to think of him. I'm not wasting any time thinking of him because I don't know what Hardy sees in him, because he'd give him 25 minutes, he'd go for 18 points, and the next game he'd give him 12 minutes, 13 minutes. And so they got to figure that out.
I think all of that is about being a well-rounded player.
Okay, and how's he changed?
He's living for the FGAs.
Well, then you are who you are. And what difference is that going to make for his game? What do you expect to see that you haven't seen?
Well, if he'll get better at anything other than shooting. Because you're right. I mean, the minutes were all over the place, and so there's other stuff you got to do. Are you good at the rest of the game, or are you just out there living for the FGAs?
I don't know. Ainge once told me that it was all about the
FGAs. That's why he's on the roster, because Danny thinks.
Of course, he was joking when he said that.
He was, but there was a point behind it.
FGAs, baby, FGAs. I still remember it.
All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Coming up, got to talk a little football. A Roy High guy, a Corner Canyon Charger, getting his shot in the NFL. Jaxson Dart next. Stay with us.
It's game week for the Cougars, and the KSL Sports Zone is getting you ready for kickoff. It's the Big 12 opener for BYU as they hit the road for a rematch with Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes. Listen all week long for the best coverage of Cougar football. Then catch college football Saturday game day at 10 a.m. with a postgame show immediately following the game on KSLSports.com. Your home for the best coverage of BYU football is live on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The band of the day today, Breaking Benjamin and 3 Days Grace. It's brought to you by Live Nation for all the live concerts and events in 2025. Check out livenation.com. And, of course, it's a Wednesday. It's a Win Tickets Wednesday. Any chance we're going to be giving away tickets, Jock?
Yes, we are.
Excellent. All right, that'll be coming up in about an hour. All right, PK, Jaxson Dart, Roy High School to Corner Canyon to USC to Ole Miss to the New York Giants bench to the New York Giants starting quarterback position. How long will it take for Russell Wilson to get benched? Well, the answer is 3 weeks. Your expectations for Jaxson Dart, given that the Giants have been down for a while now and nobody does this by themselves?
To go in there and prove that he belongs and not look overwhelmed. The same thing I was talking about with an Ace Bailey. I've seen Jaxson Dart, as we all have, play many times. I've talked to people who've coached him. I know people who've coached him very well, obviously. And they believe he's got this skill set. And I don't want to see what happened to Zach Wilson, where and it's an unfortunate situation, although Zach is still in the league, and hopefully he gets his chance some point down the line, which I think he will, to just look like I'm an NFL quarterback. You know, your team isn't set up. I understand that. But just look like you're an NFL quarterback. And I think it's important. He is a sort of a forerunner for the state of Utah. You know, you look at the University of Utah football program. If you're a really good offensive lineman there, you're an NFL guy, right? And the scouts go, we know Utah, great defensive backs, great defensive linemen, great offensive linemen, some decent running backs, right? And so you establish that rep.
Yeah. If you can play linebacker at either Utah or BYU, the NFL's probably looking at you.
Yeah, and so I think it's important. Jaxson Dart is sort of carrying the banner here for quarterbacks in our state because there hasn't been a lot of them. And you want to say, and your boy the herd used to crack on Zach Wilson nonstop because he found out that his mother's family was loaded. You know, the JetBlue and all that. Nealman's, I think that's their name. And,
David Nealman.
Yeah, and so he would crack on it endlessly about he was just a little spoiled rich kid. And so he wasn't used to hard times, and he's out there in lily white Utah and all that stuff. And that stuff sort of feeds off of itself here. And now if Dart can come in and just ball out and look like, hey, man, nothing was given to me. You know, I've been able to bounce around a little bit, but everywhere I've gone, I've won the position. And he had to leave SC because Lincoln Riley was bringing in Williams. He's bringing in his own guy, right? Williams wasn't going to come in there to sit. He was going to come in there and play. And he played fairly well at the college level. We'll see how he develops at the pro level. But who's to say Jaxson Dart can't be better than what Caleb Williams is or whomever, right? He was drafted later in the first round, but so what? So was Lamar Jackson, and we can go on and on that stuff. So I just want to see him come in there and act like, hey, I got this, man. You know, I don't know what level of winning and losing they're going to have. That remains to be seen, who they're playing and all that. I mean, the Giants haven't won in a number of years here, but do that because I think it bodes well for our state, and then it also bodes well for himself, and then, of course, the Giants.
You know, there are so many quarterbacks who have come out of Texas and Arizona, modern day. If you're the quarterback of modern day, it's just assumed you're really good because you wouldn't have gotten to that job without being really good. And you're right about, you know, as high school football evolved here in the time that we were here, more and more guys got recruited, but it seemed like the last position that got recruited, don't worry about getting to the NFL, just to be a starting quarterback in college, it seemed like by population – this league was producing a lot of players at a lot of positions, but zero at quarterback. Now, somewhere, and we can talk about this with Riley coming up in the next segment, somewhere 5 to 7 to 10 years ago, that started to change, and guys started to get recruited. And now there's multiple guys coming out of Utah high schools that are playing at different schools. But the pro thing, that's like a glass ceiling that has to be cracked. And when it does, man, as much as you'd like to think everything is just done on talent and everybody's got the eagle eye and they can look at the numbers and the stats and the skill set and all that, there's still some assumptions made.
Yeah, I think there are.
And if you're a good quarterback, in Utah, you're not looked at the same way as if you're a good quarterback in Texas and Arizona. I mean, you recite Arizona quarterbacks endlessly. There are so many guys coming out of Arizona, and they don't all hit. You know, a lot of the guys you talk about are guys who transferred 2 or 3 times and are still looking to get their chance. But there have been enough stars out of Arizona that, they get a second look there. And they didn't hear a decade ago. I think it's changing, and this could be another step in it changing.
Okay.
All right, DJ and PK, we'll talk to Riley about that. He will join us next. Look ahead to BYU's conference opener and the Utes with a major injury. How can they replace that production? We'll talk with Riley next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We're joined once again by the former Aggie quarterback, Riley Jensen. Riley, good morning.
Good morning, fellas.
Riley, so much going on in football. Kyle Whittingham just announced Hunter Andrews is out for the year, and he has been not just catching the ball, but he's actually given the running game a bit of a boost. And Kyle talked about the next guy stepping up. It feels like to replace what he was giving him, they need a couple guys to step up. I don't know if anyone can run the way he did. And they called him a tight end, but then Kyle once said he was more of an H-back. How do they replace that that production? Because he'd given him a boost.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to have to be more by committee than it is just, one guy. Kyle has always been a big fan of the phrase next man up, and so these are opportunities for kids to step up and show what they can do. But there really is, a fall off. I don't care what team you're on, if it's offensive line, if it's defensive line, if it's running back. I don't care what position it is. When one of your starters goes down, there's always a dip. And sometimes there's a dip for the whole season. Sometimes there's a dip for a few games. But no question that this will be a little bit of a blow to the University of Utah.
Don't you know when you got a good football program, you lose one game and it seems like the sky has fallen?
Well, it does kind of feel like that because, look, there was a lot of hype for the U. Texas Tech was one of the teams that they needed to beat to open up, kind of a race to the championship for the University of Utah. It's interesting. Leading up to the game, I was buying into the hype. I was excited. I was really excited about the game being at the University of Utah. I wasn't worried about it being at 10 o'clock in the morning or anything like that. And I was really excited about it. And there was about 4 or 5 of my friends that I just thought were being Debbie Downers about the University of Utah. And they're hardcore University of Utah fans. And they're like, yeah, every time we have something like this at the University of Utah, and they went back through and they're like, when we were going to play TCU, we got boat raced. When we played Boise State, we got boat raced. And I was like, oh, geez, man, you guys are kind of like actually being Debbie Downers here, and you're actually bringing up some good points. And then it happened just like they said. So I think in some ways there's a little bit of tragic Utah fan that kind of saw this coming, even more than me, because I thought this University of Utah team on the offensive line, defensively, I thought they were going to play great, and they did really for a half. In that second half, it was just like things fell apart, and I can understand why, if you're a Utah fan, like it feels pretty colossal right now, because it wasn't like it was super close. Even when the game was close, to me, it felt like Texas Tech was kind of dominating the game, and I think that's because in the trenches, on the offensive and the defensive line, there was a lot of wins for Texas Tech.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, because 1st and 10 was 2nd and 8, and then it was 3rd and 7, and they couldn't run the ball a lick. And that, I thought it was amazing the fans stayed in it as much as they did, and it's crazy. I mean, the score was close, so it was a 3-point game with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. But there was just so much 2nd and 8, 3rd and 7 stuff, and that does not inspire confidence.
Well, and it was a head scratcher because, look, you got 2 guys that are, supposedly first-round draft picks on the offensive line. The offensive line had been playing really, really well up to this point. But when you started, like, trying to make yardage in that run game and make it a little bit easier on Devin Dampier, it was not easy sledding all day long. And I was watching that first half, and I'm just like, man, this isn't it right now. This isn't it. Now, I will say this. I do think Texas Tech is a really good team. So, there is a possibility of rebounding and have an opportunity to come back. But what I worry about is that last 10 minutes when it got a little bit out of control, right? Are you going to be a team that bows your back and keeps playing every play and does everything that you can to win the game? Or do you let it slip away and slip out of your hands like that? So, man, mentally, I hope this is a team that looks at that and says, hey, never again are we going to be a team that lets it get away from us that far. To me, if you're a conference championship team, you can't ever let a game turn into a 34-10 loss. You always got to be in the game if you're conference champions.
What is fixable from the offensive perspective?
Well, you worry a little bit, and I don't mean to say I told you so, but I told you so. I'm not sure that Dampier is a natural quarterback, right? And I think there were some things that were exposed when he can't run around and be the best athlete on the field and turn it into a backyard football game. There are some things that are a little bit disconcerting. Now, I did see him attempt on some throws on Saturday to be that quarterback, and this has been my criticism of really, really good athletic quarterbacks for a long time. So let me just tell you why it doesn't always work. I was worried about Jaron Hall when he was in college because I was like, the next step for him is to be able to take a 3-step drop, put his back foot in the ground, and throw it on time and throw it for a strike. And he did that, and he became an NFL quarterback because of it, right?
Yeah.
Devin Dampier, to me, he's got to be that guy that can throw slants, that can throw a deep in, that can get some of those throws on a consistent basis. Now, he did try, and there was in the first half, there was a throw where he threw a deep in, where he was looking to the right, threw the ball on time, threw a deep in. What I'm hoping is that wasn't luck. I'm hoping that was really what his process was, because all of us get lucky sometimes as a quarterback. The great quarterbacks complete those consistently, and I think he's trying to do it. So I think those are going to be some things that are going to be important. But I think offensively, they got exposed on the offensive line when they were trying to run the ball and when they were trying to do some things. They weren't able to get the push that they need, and I think it's going to be good learning tape for Kyle Whittingham and for this offensive line for the University of Utah for the rest of the season. He will have their attention for the rest of the year.
You look at these rankings of all the teams across the country, and the Utes and Cougars have largely beaten teams ranked 70th or worse. And the one game is Texas Tech. Now, Texas Tech is 12 right now, right? And maybe they'll do what ASU did last year. They'll win the league and take Texas to overtime. And you can make the case that, ASU was team 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there. So if the Utes can't measure up to that, and let's acknowledge every week's a little different, right? Teams play their best game. Teams play, nothing close to their best game. So maybe there was a little bit of that going on. But are the Utes going to have the same problem when they play the 30th or 40th best team in the country? Because I think there's a lot of the Big 12 that's in that range. And if you can handle those teams, you can still build a pretty good record. If you can't handle those teams, you might be looking at 7-5.
No, I don't think this is a team that can't handle the 70th and 80th and 60th.
No, they've handled those. We know they can do that.
But I think they're going to be fine. I think this is a team that ran into a really good Texas team early, and I think this could be a scenario where the University of Utah is really, really looking forward to having a great season and maybe having another shot at Texas Tech at the end of the year. That's what I think you got to build on right now. I definitely think that this is still a team that can compete for a championship. That was a big sucker punch. That was a humility check, and I think a gut check for this team. But certainly we've seen Kyle Whittingham teams do something like this early in the season and then still play very, very well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I expect them to be able to be contending into November, and we'll see how long that lasts and to what ends up happening there. But I haven't given up on this team.
I think the BYU game becomes really big right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it. And it always is big here locally. But for the Utah's development for this season and for BYU's perspective, too, I think that obviously that's important because they're both grappling for the same thing. And with Bachmeier playing as well as he did against East Carolina, it gives you a measure of hope that this thing can be something that he can succeed at this season. Certainly, I'm not worried about next year or the year after because I think that's a given. But right now, how pleased are you with his progression?
Well, I think it's about what I expected. He's kind of a game manager at this point. He can make some runs here and there, and they're relying on a really, really stout defense. I think the thing that's been nice for him, is that L.J. Martin is exactly what everybody thought he was, and that this offensive line against the stout running defense last week can actually open up some holes And I think it was only like 13 rushes for LJ for 101 yards. I don't know, I have the exact stats in front of me, but I thought the running game was super efficient. And if you can, I mean, it's kind of funny to me because I think that BYU is stealing a page out of the University of Utah's page where they're like, look, our defense is really good. Take care of the football. Don't make huge mistakes. Run the football. Keep their offense off the field a little bit, and we're going to win these games. I did not expect BYU to score as many points as they did on Saturday, and I think a portion of that was Bear Bachmeier getting better, and a portion of that was they're just not making huge mistakes offensively. They're able to run the football, and this defense is really, really good for BYU. They are really good.
How much of it, though, is also when you have a chance to make a big play, you have to make it? Because the offense wasn't productive. It wasn't scoring points. The game was close. And the longer game stays close, the more the tension builds, right? And as much as it's about the X's and O's and all that, confidence, pressure, we know that can impact performance. BYU got the pick six. Now, we've seen players in the similar situation drop the ball. We've seen that all the time, right? You got to catch it. And you can't have a penalty on the other side of the field that wipes it out, right? They get to 13-3, they feel way different at halftime. The defense is just completely on fire, right? We are ahead 7-3. We've given up 3, we've scored 7. And even the offense has a little breathing room, and it looked way different in the second half. You know, the Utes had a couple chances to hit on game-changing plays, and maybe they just lose 34-24. But it would have at least given some hope. It would have changed the emotion of the building. Maybe it would have given somebody some confidence. Instead, they were still under pressure. They were literally behind for 56 of the 60 minutes, however long it took Texas Tech to score that first touchdown. And so for all these teams, I mean, if you're Ohio State and you can just bludgeon people snap after snap, quarter after quarter, game after game, great. But for most teams, I think when they have a chance to make a big play, you got to make it. And I think for our two local teams, I think that's very clear. Without that pick six, maybe that game unfolds a little differently there.
I think you're 100% correct, and I got to give credit. I heard this from Tony Parks a long time ago. The most underrated play in football is a dropped interception. Because what ends up happening is you're like, oh, well, it's a pass breakup, and he didn't intercept it, but, we got off the field because it was third down. No, those are momentum changers. Those are huge plays. And I don't care who you are, when you're playing football and you're up 13-3 at halftime instead of, 6-3 or whatever it was, right? You feel better. Like, even if the defense scored, it's like, no, we're moving the ball, we're making plays, we're doing what we need to do to win, and it changes the mindset. And it's such a huge play when guys drop interceptions because, and sometimes they drop them because they are a pick six. They look at the end zone and they're like, dude, I'm in, and they drop it, right? And so sometimes those picks can be even harder. But I totally 100% agree with you that when the defense is playing this well, that sometimes it can give you some faux confidence that you're doing well offensively, and then all of a sudden, you play better. It's like when I played in junior college and I had Kevin Curtis as my wide receiver who ended up playing 10 years in the NFL. It's interesting because you end up throwing better to guys like Kevin Curtis who have this huge catching radius, so they're going to catch it wherever you throw it. And then because the pressure's off, all of a sudden you're just throwing dimes to him, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I throw perfect to Kevin every single time. But it's because he takes the pressure off by having a huge catching radius. This is what happens with a great defense is they take the pressure off because they're going to get stops and you're going to have opportunities to kind of pick and prod and figure out what's going on with the defense before you can actually move the ball. Now, you don't want to lean on that the whole year, but it gives you a chance, especially earlier in the year, to get better offensively. And we're seeing Bear Bachmeier just progress every single week. Now, the other point that I think you brought up that was really good is it is about making pressure throws. And I actually think that was what was so great about Jake Retzlaff last year is not that he had these unbelievable stats or that he was setting the world on fire. He made some timely throws last year. And I think that's what we need to keep looking for with Bear Bachmeier is timely throws, timely third down conversions, a timely touchdown in the third quarter or the fourth quarter that helps just kind of break the game. Because when your defense plays as well as BYU's defense plays, a 10-point lead feels like a 21-point lead to an offense. Because you're just like, man, I'm having a hard time moving the ball. These guys are coming from every different direction. I'm having trouble just even getting a completion. So 10 points feels colossal compared to 21 points, with a regular team.
What's your expectations for your guy, Jaxson Dart, going to get his first NFL start?
Hey, is that exciting or what?
Yeah.
I'm really excited for him. I am cautiously optimistic because of the Zach Wilson story. I mean, you just worry. I worry that the problem isn't the quarterback. And I don't mean that Jaxson shouldn't be playing. I don't mean that in a way that you shouldn't be excited that Jackson's playing, but I worry that the New York Giants problem has nothing to do with the quarterback and has everything to do with everybody else on the team. I don't think Russ Wilson's played like lights out, but I don't think he's played bad, right? And so now there's pressure on the coach. There's pressure on the GM. They're 0-3, and they're like, we got to do something. If we don't do something, we're all out of here, right? And so I hope this is the right situation for Jaxson to be able to come in and make some plays and maybe change the momentum. And I do think out of all the quarterbacks that have come out of the state of Utah, there's two guys, that have had like the attitude and the spirit to be NFL guys. I think another one grew into it, but I mean, and ironically, they both went to Roy High School, right? Jaxson Dart and Jim McMahon, they're the alphas in the room, right? Like they're the guys in the room that everybody wants to be around, that everybody likes to be around. And I think Steve Young was that way too, in a different way. But man, I think that Jaxson Dart and Jim McMahon have a lot of the same characteristics. Even Jaxson Dart is like headbutting people like Jim McMahon used to. It's just, to me, it's a little bit of deja vu all over again with him. And I think that he has the arm strength. I think he has the chutzpah and the moxie that it takes to be an NFL quarterback. I just hope that it's the right situation because, man, that's a tough market. And man, if your teammates aren't making plays, it's hard to be. It's everybody loves to blame the quarterback and everybody loves to give the quarterback praise. And when you're losing, the finger gets pointed at you. And so I'm just hoping that he's able to open up some things for that team and really work into a fun position there.
There's a lot of angst because the Jets, the Giants, and the Chicago Bears all really seem to have a lot of problem getting the right quarterback. And I wonder how much of that comes down to so many people, such a loud media market, way too much hype, way too little patience, and so many guys now have, if they haven't flourished, they've at least become much better versions of themselves when they've left, right? Geno Smith, right. Sam Darnold, now it's Daniel Jones. That's three guys who failed pretty badly in a major media market who now are somewhere else, and they're at least playing decent to good football. You can argue how good, but much better than they were. How much of it is that it's just too many people and too much noise and too much hype and expectation and pressure on young QBs?
Well, I totally agree with you in the sense that it takes a special type of quarterback to be able to handle that media and market, right? Like it takes
you got to be wired exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, and you really look. A lot of people say they don't care what other people think, but you really have to be that person to live in New York and play in New York, and it's tough, man. And mentally, it's not for the faint of heart to live in New York and play in New York. Everything that I know and everything that I've talked to with people that have coached Jaxson tell me that he has that it factor. But we're not going to know until the barbs really start flying, until we really start seeing what it's like. And so, man, I'm wishing him the best. as a kid from the state of Utah who had dreams of playing in the NFL, it's fun to see guys like Zach Wilson, and it's fun to see guys like Jaxson Dart and these guys going on and playing in the NFL. And I wish them all well, because I think it makes us all feel like, oh man, he's from like our neighborhood, right? Like he's from right where we were. And I think it's a cool story.
I remember you coming on probably 8 to 10 years ago saying Utah quarterbacks are undervalued. They're pretty good, but nobody can get a look here. Do you think now perception's caught up with reality? Do you think perception zoomed past reality?
Yeah,
Are quarterbacks getting a fair shake here? Where does it stand?
I think it's past reality. So I'll tell you a story. When I was in college, both at Snow College, Utah State, and even at BYU, there was quarterbacks from California, and I was like, dude, this guy is terrible compared to Dan Robinson, who played at American Fork High School, and this guy's terrible. And I in my head, I just kind of made a mental note, like, oh, I guess if you're from California, you can be a terrible quarterback and still get a Division I scholarship. Well, come full circle down to 2025, and I'm not going to point out any names of anybody, but there's 2 or 3 quarterbacks out of the state of Utah right now, and I'm cheering them on, and I hope they do really well, who I don't think they deserve some of the scholarships they got. And I love it because in my head I'm thinking, okay, now Utah kids are getting the scholarships that maybe some of these California kids were getting, where I'm like, they don't really deserve that scholarship, but hey man, go and take advantage of it. Go and take advantage of that education, that opportunity, and that. So I think it's swung back the other way. Like I think we have 3 or 4 guys playing college football that are out over their skis a little bit. It doesn't mean that they're not college football players. I just think that they're a little bit higher rated than what they're supposed to be. And I'm not talking about the highest ones. I'm just talking about, guys. And so I like it. I like it that Utah kids have an opportunity at the quarterback position. We're seeing guys in skill positions get offered from the state of Utah that we never used to see. It always used to be that you could get your milk and potatoes. You could get an offensive lineman. You could get a linebacker or a fullback out of state of Utah. But then when they wanted skill positions, they went other places. But now we're getting quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers getting recruited out of the state of Utah as well.
Riley, we appreciate it as always. Thanks for the football talk.
Love it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Riley Jensen joining us right here on The Zone. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Coming up at the top of the hour, we're going to get the scouting report on the Colorado Buffaloes. The BYU Cougars have the conference opener, Saturday night. Brian Howell's going to join us at 9 o'clock. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.
It's game week for the Utes, and the KSL Sports Zone is getting you ready for kickoff. The Utes head back east for their first Big 12 road game of the season as they get set for a showdown with West Virginia. Listen all week long for the best coverage of Utah football. Then catch College Football Saturday game day at 10 a.m. with the postgame show immediately following a game on KSLSports.com.
Let's go then. Let's go, baby.
Your home for the best coverage of Utah football is live on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's a Win Tickets Wednesday. It is time to win right now. Caller 12-801-575-ZONE wins a pair of tickets to see Breaking Benjamin and 3 Days Grace with special guests Return to Dust Saturday, September 27th. That is this Saturday at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. You want to go to the concert Saturday? Call right now, 801-575-ZONE. Well, PK, that doesn't happen every day.
What's that, David James Nigeldorf III?
Ute fans throwing a little bit of a, I don't know if it's a life preserver, a hope preserver by an Aggie. Shocking.
I've been thinking
Riley's not completely over Utes to the Big 12 title game.
Yeah.
I know some people, and I get it. You drop the opener. It didn't look good. The strength of the team, what was supposed to be the strength of the offense, is a weakness, and one more loss could knock you out. I mean, I think 8-1 gets you in. I don't think there'll be 3 8-1 teams that can come anywhere near that a year ago. So 8-1 would get you in, but that seems like a big ask right now. And 7-2, I mean, I get it. I get why people would be like, well, hopefully they'll have a nice year, but whatever.
I think there's a couple of things that I want to say is that how good is your football program that the sky has fallen and the earth has ended because you lost one football game?
I know.
Yeah, so that means you're in a good spot, not just literally right now, but I'm talking about overall that and I've had multiple people ask me, hardcore Ute fans, what do you think now? Because they're concerned. And that's a good thing. A, you care enough. You certainly haven't deserted the program. And then B, you're thinking, oh my gosh, man, we were supposed to be all this, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's high expectations, right? And they fell short of that in the one game on September 20th. That's understood. That'll always be a fact. Now, going forward, what does it mean? It could mean that, hey, you're not as good as we thought. The fears that we had about the offense, and Riley talking about that Devin Dampier is not a natural quarterback, and he really isn't in the sense that of the quarterback that you want. That's not who he is, right? But can he be good enough to beat you and get you into contention? I think they can be in contention, and that may not get them in the game, right? We're talking about the final game of the Big 12 season is that first weekend in December, right? You may not be there, but can you be in contention? When you're November 15th, are you in contention? Right now, I'm inclined to say yes, I think Utah is, but I think certainly some things have to happen. Obviously, you've got to beat West Virginia, and it would help the psyche if you went back and plastered them in the manner that Kansas did. I mean, it would, obviously. I don't think it would bring it all the way back because then you would start to see people made too much of a big deal. Probably me included, too. I put myself in there on that first opening win. It's like, oh, my gosh, man, this looks so simple and so easy. Well, we found out that team over there might be literally the worst they've had ever in their program history. It remains to be seen. It's kind of funny. You spin it. Remember when we had Wayne Cook on? Well, man, if UC Los Angeles could beat Utah, the schedule really plays well in their favor.
They could be on 5 wins.
Yeah, 4-0. They could be undefeated going in October. Well, turns out they might be defeated going into October. They may lose every game.
We were all aware that Utah wasn't probably beating an 8 or 9 win UCLA team,
right.
But we thought they were beating a 4 or 5 win UCLA team.
I did, yeah.
I know. Well, they were 5-7 last year. That wasn't a stretch. And instead, they either beat an 0-12 UCLA team or a 1-11 UCLA team.
Yeah,
it's like really hard to imagine
to the
2
bottom.
wins now.
But you've got to beat West Virginia, and it would help if you can really put it on them and at least be comfortable by 10 points.
Not squeak it out.
Yeah, if it's anything above 15, 17 points, 17 obviously is more of a football number than a 15 would be, that would help the psyche of the team. And then I think that if you can find a way to split the next 2 games, right? So whether it's BYU or ASU.
That's the bare minimum, isn't it? I mean, if you lose them both, you're done.
Right. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah. You've got to find a way. If you come out of that, that's the halfway point of the season, not the conference season, but the season. And if you're looking at, you're
past halfway at that point. That'd be Game 7.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And so you've got.
But if you're 5-2.
Yeah.
5-2 and 2-2.
Yeah. I think the rest of the games are extremely winnable.
You're at least saying you got a chance. We got to run the table.
And you look good enough in those losses. You didn't look good in the Texas Tech loss. That's why I say you have to evaluate losses because there's a winner and loser in every game. And just because you lost the game didn't mean you didn't look good. Well, they didn't look good against Texas Tech. Nobody can spin that. They just didn't. But you could lose to either the Devils or BYU and still look pretty good, at least from the offensive perspective. The other team just might be a little bit better or turnover, whatever. The number of kid misses a field goal, who knows what can happen. But you can take some positives. There's very few positives. As Kyle said, man, the punter, he went right to the punter. The punter looked good. I mean, okay, well, that's normally not what you're looking for at the top of your list of positives to take from a game, right? We understand that. But find a way there because – and we'll know more about all these teams at that point because we will be in the back half of the season. But I don't think I can look at any game the rest of the way and say, oh, man, you got to really be on top of your game to win those games. maybe I'm wrong, but that's the way I see it. And I think that Whittingham, every time, not just sometime, but every time he's been counted out, somehow they rally. So there is that past that gives me a level of comfort here that this season is far, just absolutely far from being lost.
Yes, I think that the emotions of the past couple years, or as Riley pointed out, really over 20 years, those are getting mixed in with this year's storyline and the talent of this team. And college football has changed so fast, that's just not a good idea. You know, I mean, the whole thing about every time the Big Noon or Game Day shows up, well, it's not every time. They've won when they've come to town. Yes, there have been some high-profile losses.
They beat Cal at one time.
Exactly. That's a good example. And whether Game Day comes or not, it's still a big game, right? They had big games. Whether Game Day shows up or not, whether Georgia's playing Alabama that week on the other side of the country. Like USC came to town, it was a big deal. Oregon came to town, it was a big deal. They've won big showdowns with ranked teams.
Well, if you're worried about Game Day, the good news is that won't sniff the University of Utah campus the rest of the season. So that wasn't a problem.
If that's all it is, 11-0 when there's no Big Noon or Game Day, 0-1 when there is Big Noon or Game Day.
Yeah. I mean, if that's the case, obviously I don't see them going there unless they went to BYU for that game. But I don't really care about any of that stuff. It's fun if it happens, but you can still have fun without it.
It's just that they lost the game, B, they lost it decisively, and C, the stuff you were counting on to be a strength wasn't anything close to a strength. Right?
Yeah.
The running game's always good. The O-line's going to be great. They got two backs who can carry the ball, and they've got a tight end, H-back, whatever it is, and they got a quarterback. Well, they lost one of the four to injury. The other three couldn't run the ball, and we don't really blame it all on them because we saw what happened at the line of scrimmage.
All right. So buck up, boys.
I get why people are down right now, but at the same time, PK, if you rank everybody in the league, 1 through 16, or if you rank everybody on the Utes schedule 1 through 12, on paper, they lost the best team, so they can win any of these other games.
I think they can. Yes. I don't think they will, but
I know that's the thing. You're like, I give you a 60-70% chance of winning whatever big game is out there on the schedule, right? ASU and BYU are clearly the next two we're looking at. But it's not about winning any one game. It's about putting together a streak now.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Go ahead and play your butts off against West Virginia, and whatever's lost is not lost permanently, and what has been lost can be reestablished. I don't think it can be simply reestablished by beating West Virginia. It's going to be a 2 or 3 step process. If you go 3-0 in your next 3 games, you've reestablished everything, literally everything that you've lost, provided your guys, your quarterback and all that are healthy. Then you go into that back half of the schedule, and so you just chalk it up to, we sucked that Saturday, things happen, sucked at the moment, but that was last month. You have to allow everyone an opportunity to improve. It's like we used to say just here in the offseason, Retzlaff really won't be missed because his statistics were blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, that was last year's statistics. He would have gotten better this year under A-Rod and Fessy and those guys. Yes. So I don't care what his statistics were last year. I'm going to allow for the kid to improve, which I believe he would. Same concept here with Utah's football program. Now, they got to get it done. And obviously, I'm looking at it hoping to an extent that they get it done. The BYU thing, I try to be as neutral as possible here. But I want them to do well because I want the excitement and all that stuff. Same thing for BYU. And so I'm looking at them favorably, but I think it can be done recognizing that I've got a bias here.
We wanted 6-0 versus 6-0. Now we will have to accept 6-0 versus 5-1. Although there's no guarantee we'll get either one of those things.
No, but I think if I'm Utah, even before the season, if you said 5-1 and how many games would they be at? They'd be 2-1 in league. Mm-hmm. That's fine.
But an Iowa State win would have, or excuse me, a Texas Tech win.
It sure would have, but it's still fine. You're in a good spot to compete and achieve, especially now with an automatic bid. You don't even have to worry about style points and all that stuff if you get the automatic bid.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.
It's game week for the Aggies, and the KSL Sports Zone is getting you ready for kickoff. Bronco Mendenhall and the Aggies are back in SEC country as they battle Vanderbilt in Nashville. Listen all week long for the best coverage of Aggie football. Then catch all the play-by-play action beginning with the Aggie pregame show this Saturday morning at 9:30 on 1280 The Zone. Your exclusive home for Aggie football is live on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The Mr. Mack Utah County High School Player of the Week this week is Lone Peak High School quarterback Cruz Christensen. Christensen passed for 223 yards and 4 touchdowns while running for another touchdown as the Knights beat Corner Canyon High School 42-21. Don't miss the KSL Sports Game Night Live Game of the Week this week as the Timpview Thunderbirds face the Orem Tigers. Catch the action Friday night on KSLSports.com, the KSL Sports app, or here on the KSL Sports Zone. The Utah County Player of the Week Award is proudly presented by Mr. Mack. No one buys, no one sells, no one cares the way they do. Absolutely no one. I'm telling you, no one.
Amidst all this football, basketball's about to get going, and the Jazz making a roster move. Reaction to it, fairly muted. The Jazz waiving KJ Martin. Good move. Question mark. And the reaction, Leroy is a solid backup for a good team, and the Jazz aren't that. The Jazz are starting to look a lot like the Kings of the mid-'90s.
The mid-'90s.
Kings of the mid-'90s weren't good. Yeah, they weren't good.
So that was after the group or before?
They got good. No, that was before. They got good late 90s.
Okay. Yes.
All
right,
right.
gotcha.
The mid-'90s, they weren't there yet.
Okay, but how did they get good?
2000s, early 2000s.
I'm fine with that. How did they get good? Go back. You love to go back, and that was one of the places you worked, so you probably should know, and plus your memory on that stuff is really good anyway. How did they get good?
Traded for Vlade, Peja and Weber were a huge part of that. Bibby.
Then technically they traded for Weber too, didn't they?
On a draft, I think that was a draft day.
Right, draft
deal.
night deal.
He got moved.
Right. But they're essentially draft picks.
Yes.
Doug Christie?
Was it? Well, that was earlier because that was Weber was in the Sean Bradley draft class. I mean, he started with the Warriors and went to Washington before he went to Sacramento. So you've got a mix of acquiring veterans. Yeah, Weber was 25 when he went to Sacramento. And ironically, that was when they got good. so develop some young role players and then go out and acquire a couple vets.
Now, they weren't quite good enough, obviously. They had good players. I don't think they had a bona fide true superstar.
They were the second best team in the NBA. And there are plenty of people who think that.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think the year that I'd have to go back in year. The year they lost in the conference final to the Lakers, I think the Lakers were 1 and they were 2. And whoever was in the NBA finals, I don't think was as good. And I'd have to go back and figure out who that was, but it might have been Philadelphia when the Lakers absolutely rolled Iverson and the Sixers in like 5.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd put him that good, but nevertheless.
Robert Horry hit. Remember Robert Horry hit a shot?
How
it was
do I
ridiculous.
not remember
I mean, it was
Robert Horry? Get out of town, man.
Ball gets swatted out, and one NBA person said to me, he shouldn't have even been there. He should have been at the glaze, 6'10". He should have been up there trying to get the rebound. What's he doing standing on the three-point line watching?
Whoever told you that is 100%
Well, it turns
wrong.
out he was hitting the game-winning shot.
Robert Horry was not in the NBA for his rebounding prowess. He was in there.
His rebounding.
Big shot.
He was there for his shooting.
So whoever told you that was wrong.
I think that moving KJ Martin is just a case of he's 24 and they think they know what he is, and they want to see what they have with these guys who they're going to have to start deciding who gets extensions and who doesn't, and if they get extensions, what kind of extensions. So I think this just means they're going to be playing Keontae George and Collier, and they're going to be playing their draft picks up and down the line. I mean, Ace Bailey, obviously, you were talking about that early in the show. You're ready to see him go 35 every night. Let's go. What do you got?
I like the nightlife, baby.
And KJ Martin and his agent are sitting over there like, how do I get to play exactly? No matter how well I play, I can outplay that guy, but you're going to play that guy anyway. Yeah, not a great situation.
So they're happy today?
To be sitting and watching. I wonder about that. I wouldn't be surprised. We'll see where he lands. I mean, I assume you wouldn't have these kind of conversations if you didn't have a couple of landing spots in mind. That would seem to be malpractice on part of the agent. Before you go down this road, you got to
hopefully he has malpractice.
He's got to get into a camp somewhere, and yeah, right. He's got to be getting into a camp somewhere ASAP. You know, it's go time.
Or I don't know about that. Maybe as soon as possible.
Thank you. All right. DJ PK, when we come back, we will get a scatter report on BYU's opponent this week, the Colorado Buffalo. They have split a couple of games here early. How good are they? Strengths and weaknesses. Coming up next, we will talk with a guy who watches them on a regular basis. And join us next, Brian Howell, Colorado Buffalo's beat writer for BuffZone and the Boulder Daily Camera. Stay with us. DJ PK and Brian Howell joins us now. Brian is Colorado Buffalo's beat writer for BuffZone and the Boulder Daily Camera. Brian, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, we're a few games into the season now. Are the Buffs who you thought they were? A little better, a little worse? They're 2-2 after 4 games. What's your take?
Yeah, I think they're a little bit worse than I thought they would be. I thought they'd be 3-1 at this point, and certainly didn't look very good at all at Houston, and kind of up and down a little bit so far this season. So probably a little bit worse than I thought.
They've been playing musical chairs of quarterback. What is going on there, and who will play?
Yeah, it's Caden Salter. He's the guy they've wanted all along. He just they needed to send a message to him. He wasn't taking care of business the way they want him to, and I don't know what all that means, but Deion Sanders said he wanted to see more leadership and consistency out of that spot, and Caden finally got his act together a little bit and kind of needed a wake-up call. So I think he got benched at Houston just kind of wake him up a little bit. And I don't think they ever wanted to really change that spot, but it's him for sure going forward.
And running back, well, for starters, he's the leading rusher, but the running backs seem to be splitting carries. Is either guy going to be designated number one guy here and get enough carries to get into a rhythm? Because it seems like everybody's getting used as a part-time back, and you get your 8 carries, your 5 carries or whatever, but nobody's really the guy and have a chance to get into the rhythm of the game.
Yeah, I think that'll continue. I think that Marshall Falk, the running backs coach, he's a first-time coach, and he's been kind of going off of feel and who's running well at that time, and that changes. And a couple of their top rushers for this year, Simeon Price and Kalen Taylor, they've been 2 of their top playmakers. They may not even play this week. They both left that game the other night with injuries, and it sounds like they may be down this week. But they get Dallin Hayden back from injury, and Michael Welch, who started every game. So they'll have a couple guys that have been playing, but a couple guys won't be out there this week.
Salter has a ton of experience, having come over in the transfer portal. Was it just a situation of him needing the familiarity? What was going on there for the earlier struggles?
With Caden Salter?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's just not – the way Deion has said it is he needed to learn how we do things here. And so I don't know what that means. I don't know if he was just not following some of the rules or if he wasn't being enough of a leader at that quarterback position or what. Obviously when Deion Sanders has had Shedeur as his quarterback his whole coaching career, that's his standard probably. And so someone's got to live up to that Shedeur standard of leadership and all that stuff. So maybe he just wasn't living up to that. But it sounds like Salter had a really good week last week leading up to the Wyoming game and then went out and played a phenomenal game.
The receiving core doesn't look like they're going to throw to the tight end much. There's a lot of receivers with catches, but nobody with a lot of catches, a little bit like running back. It looks like they're spreading the ball around. Is there anybody there who's going to emerge? Is there anybody BYU fans should really fear?
Yeah, it's just been a weird year offensively because those receivers are really good, and the quarterbacks were having a hard time getting the ball to those guys early. But, Amarion Miller is phenomenal. He's a star. Joseph Williams is really good. Sincere Brown has been their deep threat. And then Draylon Miller is a guy that they have really high hopes for, and we all thought was going to have a phenomenal year, but he really hasn't done a whole lot yet. And he's one to kind of watch out for because especially with the running backs being a little bit possibly depleted this week, he can play running back. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see Draylon Miller lining up in the backfield and maybe taking some carries as well.
Julian Lewis, the third quarterback, he was the number one high school quarterback recruit, if I remember, coming out of Georgia, right? And so he decides to come to Boulder. Are they just looking to redshirt him? He just turned 18 last week or on Sunday, so he's still very, very young.
Yeah, they had him play against Delaware. He was number 2 he came in after Salter, and really all three played that day. And Salter and Ryan Staub looked pretty good, and Julian Lewis looked like he was 17 years old and, should have been in high school. So he's going to be very good, but he just looks a little overwhelmed right now. And so I think that they would love to redshirt him and, just have him learn this year. I think their plan all along was just for Caden Salter to be that bridge quarterback between Shedeur Sanders and Julian Lewis in 2026. And so I think this year they just kind of want him to learn and be ready for next year.
Utes have a couple weeks before they really hit the meat of the schedule. They're back-to-back games with ASU and BYU just looking huge right now. And that BYU-Utah game kicks off 4 straight games for BYU that'll define their season. But looking at Colorado right now, BYU, TCU, and Iowa State all in a row, it feels like this is going to define Colorado's season right here. It feels like everything's on the table. Is that how it feels when you're closer to the program?
Yeah, for sure. That's why I think people are disappointed that they're 2-2 right now. They felt like that first 4 was going to be the determining factor whether they were a bowl team or how good they were going to be. Because this middle 4, you mentioned those 3, but then the fourth one is Utah out in Salt Lake City. So this next 4-game stretch is really kind of brutal for the Buffs. And I think if they're 2-2 in that stretch, then I think they're really in really good shape. But I think there's a lot of people that are worried they're going to go 0-4 in this stretch.
I've been over to Boulder in the other errors, McIntyre and the other guys, and it wasn't very conducive to getting the players fired up. And then I went over last year, and the Fox Noon spiel was there, and the Utes played at the end of the season. And, it was so much excitement, and it was really fun to see from my perspective because I had seen not much of an atmosphere several times, and then to see it last year was just incredible. I'm wondering, what is the buzz as they're 2-2? A couple of guys, the high-profile guys, are gone and all that. Is it still what it was?
No, it wasn't what it was last year. Their stars were Shedeur and Travis, and obviously Deion Sanders is a star, but people came to see Shedeur and Travis, and you would have, as soon as the gates opened at Folsom Field last year, you would have just students pouring into the stadium because they were all lined up and they were ready to go, and they couldn't wait to watch Travis Hunter in warmups and Shedeur in warmups because they would, not only were they fun to watch, but they would play to the fans a little bit and maybe sign some autographs and stuff too. This year it's a very much a slow trickle into the stadium for those students, and last week, end of the third quarter, half the stadium was empty. A lot of people left, and obviously it was kind of not really a blowout, but it was a 17-point game at that point, and it was late, and so that had something to do with it. But certainly not the same buzz as it was last year.
Defensively, how is Colorado? Because the BYU, it took a while to get the offense going against East Carolina. It didn't look good in the first half, and it looked pretty good in the second half here. How good? Let's start with the pass rush. How good is the pass rush? Because obviously it's a true freshman quarterback. Can you rattle him?
Yeah, they led the conference in sacks last year, but really haven't gotten going this year. They had a couple the other day, including one for a safety, but really haven't gotten going there. They've got a lot of talent there, but they had a slow start last year too, as far as sacks go. So they're hoping that they can, mimic that as well and start taking off from there. But there's talent, but it just hasn't gotten to the quarterback as much as they want. Defensively, they've just been really up and down. I mean, they'll have some really good moments for a while, but then they are very vulnerable to the big play. Every team has hit some big plays on them, and Wyoming had a 50-yard run the other day, and I think it was a 41-yard touchdown pass. So every team has hit some big plays on them, and that's mainly what CU's given up.
You had a chance to see Houston. Are they a surprise team, or can they be a surprise team?
Yeah, I think they can. They were better than I thought they were. I mean, that's a team that got better quickly through the portal. They were tougher than I thought they were going to be. We all kind of have these, preconceived notions over the previous year, and so I thought that might be an easier game for Colorado. But they picked up some players. I think they're a team that's a bowl team to me that could be pretty sneaky for a lot of teams in the Big 12.
When you look at the the secondary for Colorado, are there any guys ball hawks there? Anybody who's a threat to get an interception in that? Because I'm thinking true freshman, can you pick him off? And it's been overmatched here in the non-conference, and conference could be different.
Yeah, DJ McKinney is their top corner. He actually picked off Jake Retzlaff in the bowl game in December. He's really good, and he's had several interceptions. He only has one this year, but he's definitely one that if you throw his way, he could definitely pick it off. Preston Hodge is another one, but that other corner spot, they're still kind of trying to settle that, and safety. It's really been kind of a work in progress in that secondary, but DJ McKinney and Preston Hodge are the two that are pretty solid that could definitely give them some problems.
Well, Brian, we appreciate the time. Thanks for jumping on and talking a little Colorado football with us.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
Brian Howell, Colorado Buffaloes beat writer for the BuffZone and the Boulder Daily Camera. They give up 150 yards per game through 4 games on the ground, PK. And I know that stats, especially with the non-conference mismatches, can be a little hinky. Yeah. But 150 yards per game,
what?
LJ Martin ought to have a huge game, don't you think?
Go ahead, Yak.
I was going to say, I said PK. Hinky?
Hinky. Hinky. Weird. Bizarre. Strange. Odd.
I never heard that word.
Freaky.
I had not heard.
Oh, really?
I haven't heard that word since my grandma used it.
Seriously, my dad used it. That is an old school word. Yeah, my dad used that a lot. So that's pretty hinky. And that meant that was weird. That was strange.
All right, I got
what kind
it.
of bizarro stuff was that?
DJ
150 yards a game when you should have overmatched Delaware and that kind of stuff. As much as we're all curious about the freshman quarterback and how good can Bear Bachmeier be, and not just how good can he be, but how quickly can he be really good. When A-Rod comes out and says, we're going to run the ball, we're going to run the ball well, we're going to be good at running the ball, and he sees 150 yards per game, I'm thinking they're going to be running it right at him.
And DJ, to your point, in their 2 games against Power 4 opposition, Colorado's given up an average of 260-plus yards on the ground. BYU right now, averaging 265 yards on the ground.
That's freaky. That's inky.
That's hinky.
Inky. Making up new words. Making up words off made-up words.
Right, well, I don't like
second generation made-up words.
It's too close to something else. So I'm going to say inky, so then I cover myself. That inks. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go with inky as far as that goes. But I think that's irregardless of the opponent. BYU, this team this year, is primed to do that. Now, if you've got a team that is crappy on that, then that bodes well for the Cougars, particularly on the road. You'd much rather play a team that can't defend the run on the road than at home because everything is harder. So run the ball, get Martin as 100 yards. He's checked off 100 yards every game. He needed the big run the other day to get it, but he still got it. So with that in mind, go ahead and continue to do that. That's the easiest and safest way to win at any point. Even if you've got, this will never happen again, if you've got a 4-year starter at quarterback, that's still the safest, easiest way and most reliable to win. Now, if you have a freshman making his first conference game and it's a road game, that just adds into, if that is available, you have to beat that into the ground literally, no pun intended, but it was a beautiful analogy by me.
It was a beautiful pun. Well done. Well played. Bravo, sir. Bravo. Well done.
Sure.
And
Yes.
and just stay with it, because what he just told us is they give up big plays. So even if it's a little bit of a struggle, it could be like what you said about East Carolina, right? The big run didn't come in the first or second quarter, but you keep running the ball, and the big run comes eventually in the second half.
Right, and that just takes the pressure off Bachmeier. I don't want Bachmeier to be just a handoff guy, because you're trying to develop him so he's ready for the big games, because there's not going to be every game where you can just turn it around and just dominate that. And it's probably coming next month at home against Utah, because that game is so freaky to begin with. So you're going to have them throw him, I should say, not them, but him throw the ball. I need development out of this kid. If he develops and you're winning, boy, that's the best of the best there. And then that really puts BYU in a position to not just be a contender last year and this year, but literally I could just go like the next 4 or 5 years with all the stuff that they have and their recruiting net and the money that they can offer and all the attention that comes with BYU being a BYU football player. If Bachmeier can develop this year and you still win, that really sets them up for a nice immediate future.
The future is bright.
It could be, yeah. You never know, man. My gosh. I mean, just this time last year, freaking Mike Gundy was 4-0.
I know. He's 4-0, and he was all set up to lose 11 of the next 12 games.
3-0, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. 3-0, and then lose 11 of the next 12 games.
Yeah, and now he's gone.
Fired. Yeah.
And he's been there for 21 years. He's had 2 losing seasons. Last year in his first one, and that's it, man. You are gone. You get no chance to regroup. I don't think this year was a chance. They pulled the plug. Now, I'm not saying it wasn't the right thing or was the wrong thing or whatever. I'm just stating facts. I don't think that if you get out of you haven't even gotten out of September, you weren't given the time to rebuild. Now, 2 other guys weren't. Deshaun Foster and whoever the guy was at Virginia Tech, I don't even know his name, or something.
Brent Pry.
Pry, yeah. So with that in mind, that's the way of the world. That's shocking, too. I mean, it used to be coaches didn't get fired in the season. Then they did get fired. Now they're getting fired in September. My gosh, Deshaun Foster, he may have been the worst coach in the world, but I don't know. He got 15 games. 15 games. That's one season for the Ohio States of the world.
Yeah, and Gundy's sitting over there saying, I crushed it for 20 years, and I had 12 bad games. I will see your 15. I'll go 12.
Well, usually you raise the stakes. You lowered them, though.
I know.
From 15 to 12.
And I mangled those Colorado rushing numbers. They give up 195 yards a game. Oklahoma State dead last at 211. The only team worse against the run through 4 games this year than Colorado is Oklahoma State. BYU is going to be running the ball Saturday.
Good for them. Control the game with that defense. That's a winning recipe.
Yeah. I'm looking at the conference stats here, and you wonder why K-State's 1-3, and they're giving up 175 yards a game on the ground. That is just a ton of yards. No wonder they're off to a bad start. Can't stop the run.
Right, because you're probably mixed in with that going to find a way to pass for 100 yards.
See?
And then now you're starting to get into some total offense yards that the stats are slanted against you unless you come up with a bunch of turnovers that you're able to not give away but get.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Everything you missed in this show next. Stay with us.
You've been listening to The Zone for decades.
Yes!
But now you can watch the guys break down your favorite teams.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Catch the video stream of DJ and PK, Jake and Ben, Hanson, Scotty, and JJ and Alex right now at KSLSports.com or by searching KSL Sports on YouTube. Utah's best sports radio is on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's time to get you slackers up to date. Slacker Radio headlines brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary, 801-899-7600, or visit the website at TrajanWealth.com. All right, PK, of all the things we talked about today, what did you find the most interesting, the most fascinating, most intriguing?
Oh, the best is yet to come and hasn't happened yet. I am about to deliver it right now.
Okay, save the best for the 9:30 listener.
Well, the Utes, to me, as we talk about them, thinking that, oh my gosh, they're in trouble. That seems so silly after one game. Why would we do that? I mean, for years, you would have just been so happy if the Utes were 3-1 with an opportunity to be favored, I would think, to win the next game, to go 4-1, and then you got a bye week to regroup. That's not so bad, but I understand. It's the Majerus thing, man. If they lost the game, the sky was falling, because he would talk about how you guys, he would say, after they got beyond their little bit of, not a little, but they had a lot of success. But when Van Horn, Miller, Doliak, and those guys, they left, the guys right after were still pretty good, right? Mm-hmm. And he would say, we go into these places, they're not just playing the Utes. They're playing Andre Miller. They're playing Van Horn. They're doing all that stuff, right? Because that's the rep that you had built, and you have to be aware of that. And I think it's the same thing with the Utes. Texas Tech comes in, and they're jacked to play the Utes too, because they know the Utes were in the Rose Bowl, and even it's a couple you were getting away from it a little bit, but it's not that far enough, and so they got the best. That you could argue that was Texas Tech's best game of the year that they'll play, their best game since who knows when. I mean, I'm not an aficionado of Texas Tech, but just being on their sideline at the end of the game and looking at their fans, they knew that was huge, right, to be able to do that. And so Utah didn't meet the task on that time, but now they've got all these other chances to do, and so I'm excited to see where they go from here, right? Because the proverbial, okay, everybody's got a plan, and then you get punched in the mouth. What do you do at that point? Well, under that theory, that concept, that line of analogy there, they got punched in the mouth, right? So what are they going to do about it, man? I certainly think that last year, they didn't do enough. I think the team is in a much better position this year to do something about it. And I am really intrigued to see what they've got to go back. Jerry Sloan used to talk about that all the time. And when you're around somebody in the sports world for so many years, that stuff sticks with you, right? And that's the same thing here.
There's a lot to what you said there. But I just think for Ute fans...
All of it, absolute truth.
For Ute fans who went to the conference title game 4 times in 5 years, and the one they didn't go to was the bizarro 2020 season. This is 2 years in a row, and now is this going to be 3 years in a row without going to the conference title game?
Come on.
It was 2 years in a row.
It was, but, last year was understood.
I know. But they want it. They want it badly. They're used to it. Yeah. And I had a coach say once, after you've won, you can't accept anything else. And you fans have won now. So if they struggle to accept anything else, my coach was right. I get it. And the path is still there.
But they haven't struggled.
They
lost one game. That's my point. Have they really struggled this year?
Oh, it's not just this year, though. I mean, it's all of it added together.
No, I think it is. I think last year you'll never have a situation like that with Rising, because if it wasn't just last year was the exception, then this program's on the downward trend.
Well, you can't put the last 2 seasons really on Rising being hurt. But, the thing is they could go 9-3 this year and be a really good team and not be in the conference title game.
And that's fine.
Well, to you, but not to a lot of you.
It's disappointing, but sometimes you can be disappointed and be fine. I don't think that those are two mutual
because they
things.
don't want fine, they want great. I get your point.
If you go 9-3 or 10-2 and you didn't get in, you could be disappointed and still have a fine season. I look no further than 40 miles to the south. That's
BYU
exact same.
Yeah.
Yes, but they were jacked about that season, particularly when you step back from the disappointment. The sucky part was the Kansas loss. I don't think you can really say the Devils was, and it sucks that you lose. Anytime you lose, it sucks. But I don't think that you can say, oh my gosh, man, that was just a horrible loss. Because it wasn't. That was the team that won the whole freaking thing. The Kansas won. Okay, but maybe that was a little bit of trade-off. You lost that game, and there's no way you should have beat Oklahoma State. But you did, and things went your way that way, too. So that stuff sort of flushes out. I think you have to look at the whole picture rather than just pick a particular goal, even if you fall short of that goal.
In addition to talking about the Utes, and there's a lot out there, we spent a lot of time with Riley at 8 o'clock, so go listen to that segment, his take on that. We spent a lot of time just recently here with Brian Howell on Colorado. Everybody's going to pick BYU to beat Colorado, aren't they? There's no way around it. BYU will beat Colorado. That will be the pick.
I'll pick it, yeah, but I don't think it's a sure bet. If I were a gambler,
crazy
I wouldn't
things
think
happen.
that, oh my gosh, I better bet a extra X amount of dollars because this is a sure thing. I wouldn't go there.
I mean, we're talking straight up winning. The gamblers have got to worry about the point spread, which is BYU by 6.5.
Okay, I still wouldn't think that's just wow. That's something, man. If you're that confident in BYU winning, then you would be that confident in the point spread.
Yeah, I can see your logic there. I mean, there's certainly bigger point spreads in college football. But I have a lot of faith. I have a lot of faith in the defense, and Colorado cannot stop the run.
Okay, but their offense now, they got a quarterback who he played for several years, 3 years at Liberty, and now maybe it just took him a little bit with that Shermer, the offensive coordinator, to figure out what they've got, what he's got, blah, blah, blah.
There's still a bit of an unknown with him, too, because he has played so little there.
All of that, I feel like Colorado – I mean, if you're going to create the scenario where Colorado wins the game, then what you're saying has to be true, PK. I see what you're leading up to here, right, with how things finally click and it's Game 5 and they're getting better and all that. And BYU has to help them along with turnovers. BYU has to help them along by giving up a big play on special teams, maybe miss, have a long drive, stall, miss a field goal, and it's all just wasted effort.
They don't miss field goals. I don't know where you've been, what planet you've been on, but they don't miss field goals. Yes.
Hence I have BYU winning the game. But that's the kind of stuff that has to happen. Maybe it gets blocked.
Okay. Well,
that's not on Will.
No.
That's not on Will.
Once you put in hence, then you got me there.
Hence, ergo.
Yeah, you got
hence,
me there.
ergo, therefore.
Right. Whereas.
That would really slow down the sports talk radio show. Hence, therefore, something hinky will happen.
And we're talking to Ute fans. We can't go too big on the vocab.
Hey, now.
And BYU fans, they probably got one or two entrepreneur deals that they're wrapping up at 9:39. So they're busy, right? We're talking more to the Aggie and Weber fans right now.
Okay. Jaxson Dart, the pride of Roy High and Corner Canyon, one of our own. We watched him play high school football, and now it looks like the Giants are turning to him. The coach is trying to hedge, and everybody in New York thinks, oh, hedge all you want. It's going to be Jaxson Dart. He won't come out and say it officially unless he said it this morning, but he was hedging, but no one believes that.
Is he the third? Were there any before? I mean, we all know of McMahon, of high school kids in the state who've played NFL quarterback, started a game.
Well, I'm sorry, what was the question?
High school quarterbacks in Utah who have started an NFL game.
Well, you're leaving out Scott Mitchell.
Yeah, Scott Mitchell, Jim McMahon.
Yeah. So we
but
got
it is a short list.
Zach Wilson.
And now Dart.
And Dart. Those are starters, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a historian of high school football in the state.
Those are the four. Those are the four I can.
If we're missing somebody can shout it out to us. I mean,
I wouldn't be surprised if I'm missing because I don't follow high school football.
Right. I don't think there's somebody
until I got here.
Yeah, I don't think there's somebody who started 100 games.
I know. I'm just talking one.
Right, but somebody could have started
100. I'd know of them.
Right. I'm trying to go through the quarterbacks, and the guys I can think of who started are Arizona or California guys or whatever.
Right. I'm talking about high school kids who played high school ball in the state.
It appears it's
all right. Hit us up on Twitter, David DJ James, if you know somebody.
It appears to be just those three outside of
Dart.
Those
three, and Dart will be the fourth.
He'll be the fourth.
Cool.
More injuries. The NFL is just like a nonstop injury report here. Mike Evans is out 3 to 4 weeks with a hamstring. Terry McLaurin, multiple opinions on his quadriceps injury. So all you fantasy football players, keep adjusting your rosters. There you go. And college hoops. Now we're getting college hoops injuries. Remember when college hoops started at Thanksgiving, PK? Not anymore. We're going to have games in early November. We're like 5-6 weeks away, I think, from college basketball games.
Yeah, great. Fine.
Iowa State lost their guard, Tamin Lipsey, their career leader in steals, suffered a knee injury, out 4 to 6 weeks. He started 103 games.
Well, he'll be there
at
for
Iowa
the
State.
conference season then.
Yeah, he should be fine for the conference season. 103 games at Iowa State. Not a transfer guy. 103 games at ISU. Go figure. And this rocked your world. A guy who's played in the G League for 2 years has just been cleared to play college basketball at Santa Clara.
Well,
Gary Darling.
I expect a couple of these guys on the Jazz to eventually play for BYU.
Like a AAA team. Guys just move back and forth.
I can argue that
got a
they'll
big
get
trip.
more money. I don't know what they get in the G League, but I can argue they'll get more money.
Yep. Yeah, if you're a good enough player.
Yeah.
And we talked a little baseball. The Yankees clinched. The Cleveland Guardians passed Detroit, made up 10.5 games since September 1st. Massive rally for Cleveland. And the Tigers are now at risk of they might hold on to the last wild card, but they're at risk of falling all the way out of the playoffs, too.
Yeah, that would be a major choke.
That would be a complete collapse.
It would. Yeah.
You were texting with a college friend of yours who's in L.A., big Dodger fan.
Mm-hmm.
He made you look up stats on the Dodger bullpen.
Yeah, he texted
$1 billion Dodgers.
He texted me a thing. I don't know if you watch the Diamondbacks much, but Shohei, he's going to be, if not already, the greatest player ever. And so I sent him a picture of me sitting in my lazy boy watching the game. I watch a lot of baseball, and I watch a lot of Diamondback baseball. And if their season ends on Sunday, I'll be sad that it's over and look forward to the spring when it starts again. And so we went from there, and he says, oh, man, our bullpen is the worst. And I did look it up. They do have the most blown saves. And I texted him back. I said, hey, a guy like Tom Niedenfuhr doesn't grow on trees. And
Nice.
he says, I want Mike Marshall. I said, well, you had two of them. Don't be so greedy. As if you remember, there was Mike Marshall, the reliever, and Mike Marshall, the position player.
Yep.
And then we
First
went from
baseman,
there.
right?
And, I was thinking, and I'm watching Shohei. I mean, I try to watch him every time. I mean, the guy's electric, right? Playing the Diamondbacks last week of the season. There's no football, nothing else that I need to be aware of. So I had that planned all day. That's what I was going to do. And when that came on at 7:40, that's exactly what I did. And his stuff was just absolutely awesome. To me, he looks like a right-handed Randy Johnson in terms of getting that slider, guys to swing, and it just drops in the dirt. It never looks like a strike, but you got to go early on that guy. You've got to go so early because he does hit triple digits, and at the bat, he looks like Barry Bonds.
Your Diamondbacks and the Cincinnati Reds, one game behind the Mets. 3 teams for one playoff berth. Who will get it? We'll know by Sunday. Maybe we'll know earlier. But we'll definitely know by
I wouldn't be
Sunday.
surprised if it goes to Sunday.
Well,
I do know the Diamondbacks have the tiebreaker on the Mets.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they have it on the Mets. Maybe I know they have it on the Giants, but the Giants have sort of faded. And if they lose, I was thinking about this morning. If the Diamondbacks lose out by one game, blame it on me, because when I travel around all these baseball stadiums, I try to root for the home team. And so I was in Citi Field in July rooting for the Mets, and they won that game. If I would have rooted against them, maybe that it was against the Reds, maybe they would have been out and the Diamondbacks would be in. It's a terrible burden that I might have to carry the entire winter.
Yeah. And we will know Sunday, right? Because they got rid of those tiebreaker games. They don't do those anymore. That's all over.
Yeah.
Straight
that's
into
what I'm
the
thinking.
wild card round.
You're right.
Yeah.
We may know earlier, but Sunday would be the latest.
Somebody could clinch on Saturday. Obviously, the Mets with a game lead would be the team you'd expect, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Crazier things have happened. Look at Cleveland and Detroit. No one would have predicted that, and there it is. All right, when we come back, your feedback next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it is time for your feedback. Everything you have to say about this show or possibly anything this week. Yuck. Bear Bachmeier nicknames?
Yep, we got another nickname who came in yesterday right after we went off the air, so here you go.
Jake already gave him a nickname, PK. It's the Bear.
That's pretty creative.
Not Bear. The Bear. Sound like the Ohio State? The Bear.
No.
Don't have them confused with any other Bears. The Cal Bears. Whoever else might be wandering around out there. The Bruins.
Baylor Bears.
Exactly.
Northern Colorado Bears, I think they are.
Oh, nice. Look at you go. See, that's your Big Sky roots right there.
They used to be very strong.
We got people weighing in on the Jazz waiving KJ Martin. Is that a good move? Jake says the Jazz love to give away assets for nothing in return over the last couple of years.
Well, yeah, you could argue that the relative to the value that John Collins provided and so forth and so on, Clarkson. Yeah, but I mean, that's more the sign of the times, so to speak, because what's available out there and what you are trying to accomplish. There would be a time, and there was a time, that Jordan Clarkson was extremely valuable, but that time has come and gone.
And I get that they sat on him too long. I can see that. I can see that argument that they sat on him too long. He needed to be moved a year or two earlier when he had more value. But they didn't sit on Collins too long. That just seems to be like the league is capped out and nobody wants to take on any salary. Because they didn't sit on him too long. He just had his best year.
Yeah. So, yeah, I get it. But I get the criticism of it, too.
I do, right. I mean, we're all used to seeing, hey, you got this player, you can get something for him. And this is, well, I guess depending on how you score it, 3 or 4 players in a row where they got nothing.
Yeah. So I get it. And Collins is a player in this league.
I know. He shot it really well. He can help people.
Yeah. Extremely bright man, too. I think he can help you more than just
right
raw stats.
It was a great interview when we talked to him at Media Day last year. It was very impressive.
Absolutely, yes. We'll be over there this Monday for Jazz Media Day again.
Jazz wave KJ Martin, is it a good move? Steve, I'm not sure. I can't really even tell you who's on the team anymore. Hector, same. Guys coming and going. They've lost track.
Well, maybe some bench guys, but I think if you follow the team to any degree, you know about these youngsters. And you know about marketing. You know about Kessler. Come on.
Eric, I'll never forget that one game where he did that thing. Oh, the memories. Nice sarcasm, Eric.
Send you out of games.
Raphael, I didn't even know he's on the Jazz. Now that I get. I don't buy you don't know the whole roster, but he did come to the team. What did he play, like 20 games late in the year?
KJ?
And so if you checked out, I can look up his stats and see how many games he played.
Please do. It's important.
If you checked out on the team the last half of last year and didn't know, all right, you're not hardcore, but I get it.
Okay, but then they start winning. Don't be checking back in, buddy.
Oh, no, that's exactly how that'll happen. Yeah, he played 19 games. You did
go look it up, didn't you?
I did, absolutely. You know me, I'm wired. I have to do that.
Yeah, I know, but we would go for the listener, what they care about, not what we care about.
Steve, well, I mean, I've been looking stuff up for 20 years. We're still here, so,
you're welcome.
Some people like that. Steve, nice. He would have been owed $8 million, and there wasn't a path to playing time for him. This saves money, prevents a logjam, and allows KJ to find a better situation for himself. Yeah, I think for the club, issue number one is preventing the logjam. Yeah, they're going to play the draft picks.
Well, I think that you have an opportunity to reallocate the assets. That's important.
Vernon, no, it's not a good move. Why haven't they waived Love instead?
You want to keep Love. Always keep Love. Love abounds.
All right, DJ and PK, we're all done. Jake and Ben are coming up next right here on The Zone. Stay with us.